Step into the vibrant world of a child in 5th century BCE Athens, where the hum of democracy, the shadow of war, and the glow of sacred rituals shape every moment. From courtyard games to heartfelt prayers, discover how the daily lives of boys and girls woven with duty, play, and faith built the foundation of a civilization that still echoes today. The birth and infancy of an Athenian child. Imagine yourself as a newborn in the bustling city-state of Athens, around the 5th century BCE, during the height of its classical period. The air is thick with the scents of olive oil lamps flickering. In modest homes built of sun-dried bricks, their flat roofs offering scant protection from the Mediterranean sun. Your arrival into the world would not have been marked by grand ceremonies or medical fanfare, but by the quiet, practical rituals of a society deeply attuned to survival and tradition. In ancient Athens, childbirth was a domain shrouded in both hope and peril, where the line between life and death was as thin as the linen swaddling cloths that would soon wrap your tiny form. Your mother, likely in her mid-teens or early 20s marriages, often occurred young to ensure heirs would have labored in the women's quarters of the home, known as the gyn. This segregated space, away from the male-dominated andron where guests gathered, provided a semblance of privacy. Midwives, experienced women from the community, rather than trained physicians, attended the birth. They relied on herbal remedies, like fennel or pomegranate, to ease pains, and simple tools, such as olive oil for lubrication. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, whose teachings were emerging around this time, noted in his writings the risks of childbirth, including infections and hemorrhages, which claimed many lives. Yet, for you, assuming survival, the first moments were about immediate acceptance into the family. Upon your birth, your father, perhaps a citizen hoplite farmer or artisan, held the power of amphidromia, a ritual on the 5th or 7th day, where he carried you around the household hearth, symbolizing your integration into the oikos, or family unit. Rejection was possible if you appeared weak, or if the family couldn't afford another mouth. Exposure on a hillside was a grim but accepted practice, especially for girls or deformed infants. But let's say you were welcomed. Your name would be bestowed on the 10th day during the Decate, a feast where relatives offered gifts like amulets to ward off evil spirits. Boys might receive names honoring ancestors, like Pericles or Themistocles, evoking civic pride. Girls, simpler ones, like Athena or Callisto, tied to virtues or deities. In these early months, your world was confined to the cradle, often a wicker basket suspended from the ceiling to rock gently, lulling you with the rhythm of household chores. Wet nurses were common if your mother was unavailable, or affluent families preferred them slaves or free women hired for the task, feeding you with goat's milk if breast milk wasn't sufficient. Diets transitioned slowly. By 6 months, you'd taste softened barley gruel mixed with honey for sweetness, as teeth emerged painfully without modern teething aids. Hygiene was rudimentary. Baths in bronze basins with water from public fountains, carried home by slaves or women. Olive oil served as soap, rubbed into your skin to protect against the dry Attic climate. The household buzzed with activity that indirectly shaped your infancy. Athens, with its population of around 250,000, including slaves and medics, foreign residents, thrived on agriculture and trade. Your father might till olive groves or craft pottery, while your mother spun wool into thread on a distaff, a task you'd observe from your cradle. Siblings, if any, played nearby with knucklebones or clay dolls, their chatter mixing with the distant roar from the agora, the central marketplace where philosophers like Socrates wandered, debating ideas that would one day influence your education. Yet, dangers lurked in this seemingly mundane routine. Infant mortality was high, perhaps 25 to 30%. Didn't reach their first birthday due to diseases like dysentery from contaminated water or malnutrition in lean years. Superstitions governed care, amulets against the evil eye, invocations to Artemis, goddess of childbirth. As you grew toward toddlerhood, crawling on terracotta floors, scattered with straw mats, you'd begin to grasp objects, mimicking the adults around you. The polis, or city-state, emphasized communal values even in infancy. Your early cries echoed in a society where citizenship was prized, but only for freeborn males. As the months passed, you might wonder, lying in that swaying basket, what lay beyond the hearth's warm glow. Would the gods favor your path, or would the harsh realities of Athenian life test your resilience from the start? As you, a young child in 5th century BCE Athens, leave the cradle behind, your world expands beyond the wicker basket's gentle sway. By age 2 or 3, you toddle across the packtruth floors of your family's modest home, grasping at the edges of wooden stools or the hem of your mother's peplus, a draped woolen garment dyed with saffron or indigo. The gynekon, women's quarters, remains your primary domain, a dimly lit space where the clatter of looms and the scent of barley simmering in clay pots define daily life. Athens, a city-state, pulsing with civic pride and intellectual ferment, begins to shape your existence, though you're unaware of its grand debates in the assembly or the distant clashes of hoplite spears. Your life is grounded in the rhythms of the oikos, the household, where survival hinges on practical routines and unspoken hierarchies. Your diet now includes more solids, lentil porridge, figs softened in water, and small bites of bread dipped in watered wine, a common practice to make the city's often murky water safer. Milk, if still needed, comes from goats grazing the rocky hillsides beyond Athens' walls, herded by slaves or poorer relatives. Mealtimes are communal, with your family seated on low stools around a wooden table, sharing clay bowls. Your mother, or an older sister, might feed you, ensuring you eat enough to grow strong in a society where physical vigor signals a family's health and status. Malnutrition, though, is a silent threat. A bad harvest in Attica's thin soils could shrink portions, leaving you listless, your growth stunted compared to wealthier peers. Play is your first taste of freedom, though it's shaped by the materials at hand. You might roll a wooden hoop with a stick in the courtyard, dodging chickens or the occasional bleeding goat. Knucklebones, small sheep bones, used as dicer, a favorite, teaching you numbers and chants as you toss them with siblings or slave children. These playmates, born to the household's slaves, blur the lines of status in early childhood. You share laughter, unaware that their future holds labor, while yours might lead to citizenship or marriage. Toys are simple but cherished. Clay rattles, shaped like pigs, filled with pebbles, or tiny terracotta horses, their paint chipped from rough handling. These objects, found in Athenian graves, hint at their emotional weight. Often buried with children who didn't survive, your health remains precarious. Without modern medicine, a fever from tainted water or a cut from a broken pot could turn deadly. Physicians like those trained in Hippocratic schools were rare for common folk. Instead, your mother might rub your chest with olive oil mixed with herbs, or offer prayers to Asclepius, god of healing, at a small household altar. Epidemics, like the plague that struck Athens during the Peloponnesian War 430 to 426 BCE, could sweep through, sparing neither rich nor poor. Yet, survival strategies abounded. Swaddling kept you warm, and exposure to sunlight in the courtyard helped ward off rickets. Your family's resilience honed by generations of scraping by ensures you're watched closely. Though accidents, like falling into an open hearth, are all too common. Socially, you're beginning to notice the world's divisions. Your father, if a citizen, might leave for days to serve in the assembly or train as a hoplite, his bronze armor gleaming in the andron. Your mother, confined to domestic tasks, teaches you gender's unspoken rules. Boys are groomed for public life, girls for the hearth. Festivals, like the Anthesteria, where children over 3 were crowned with flowers and given tiny wine jugs, introduce you to Athens' religious pulse. You'd trail behind adults to honor Dionysus, awed by the city's unity, yet unaware of the slave's exclusion from such rites as you grow. Mimicking your father's gestures or your mother's weaving, a question lingers. How will the polis' rigid structures, its emphasis on citizenship, gender, and survival, shape the path you're only beginning to walk? Now, as a child of 4 or 5 in 5th century BCE Athens, you stand at the threshold of early childhood. Your small frame draped in a simple chiton, a linen tunic pinned at the shoulders. The world of the oikos, your family's household, is no longer just a backdrop, but a stage where you actively participate. The terracotta walls of your home, warmed by the attic sun, echo with the clatter of daily tasks. Your mother's spindle worry, your father's voice recounting tales of the agora or the latest assembly vote. Athens, a city of some 250,000 souls, hums beyond your courtyard, its democratic ideals and cultural vibrancy shaping the society you're beginning to understand. Yet, your role within it is dictated by forces beyond your control: gender, status, and the ever-present specter of survival. Your days are filled with small responsibilities. If you're a boy, you might trail your father to the olive grove, clutching a woven basket to collect fallen fruit, learning the labor that sustains the family. Girls, meanwhile, stay closer to the gynekon, watching their mothers weave or grind barley into flour, their tiny hands mimicking the motions of spinning wool. These tasks, though mundane, are your first lessons in Athenian values: self-sufficiency for boys destined for citizenship, domestic mastery for girls bound for marriage. The household's slaves, ever present, perform heavier tasks like fetching water from the public fountain or kneading dough. Their silent labor, a reminder of the hierarchy you're born into. You might play with their children, but the distinction grows clearer. Your future holds possibilities, theirs cannot. Health remains a constant concern. A scratch from a splinter or a sip of tainted water could bring fever. And without antibiotics, Recovery depends on luck and home remedies, herbal poultices, or prayers to Asclepius at the family altar. The plague of 430 BCE, which Thucydides chronicled, lingers in collective memory, a grim reminder of mortality's reach. Yet, your family's resilience shines through. Your mother ensures you eat nutrient-rich foods like lentils and fish when available, while sunlight and fresh air in the courtyard bolster your strength. Festivals like the Apatoria, where boys are presented to their father's phratry, a kinship group, mark your integration into the polis if you're male. Girls excluded from such rites learn their worth lies in future roles as wives and mothers. Your curiosity about the world grows. You overhear tales of Socrates questioning passersby in the agora, or Pericles' speeches rallying citizens for war. These figures, distant yet omnipresent, hint at the intellectual and political currents awaiting you. Playtime, too, evolves. You chase friends with wooden tops or mimic hoplite drills with sticks, unaware that such games prepare boys for military service. For girls, play involves clay dolls, foreshadowing their domestic futures. The Anthesteria Festival, with its wine tasting for young children, leaves a lasting impression. Your first sip of diluted wine, a symbol of Athens' cultural richness, shared under Dionysus' watchful gaze. As childhood unfolds, the polis structure solidifies your path. Boys face a future of education and civic duty. Girls, of weaving and eventual betrothal. The unresolved tensions of infancy, survival, acceptance, and health give way to new questions about identity and belonging. Reflecting on this, you might see how these early years in Athens, steeped in routine yet fraught with uncertainty, laid the foundation for its golden age. The ordinary lives of children like you, shaped by labor, ritual, and community, fueled a city that birthed democracy and philosophy. How did these quiet moments of childhood resilience ripple outward, defining a civilization that still echoes in our modern world? Daily life in an Athenian household for young children. Picture yourself as a young child, perhaps 4 or 5 years old. In a modest Athenian household in the 5th century BCE, the sun filters through a small window in your family's home, a low structure of mud brick and plaster nestled in Athens' winding streets. The air carries the scent of olive oil and freshly baked barley bread, mingling with the chatter of the agora a short walk away. Your world, though, is the oikos, the family unit where every corner of the house hums with purpose. For young children like you, daily life is a tapestry of routine, observation, and small responsibilities, shaped by the polis rhythms and the unspoken rules of gender and status that govern even the youngest lives. Your day begins early, roused by the clatter of clay pots as your mother or a household slave prepares the morning meal. Breakfast is simple, a piece of flatbread, perhaps smeared with honey or dipped in watered wine, eaten on a low wooden stool in the courtyard. The open space, surrounded by plain walls, is the heart of the home, where you spend much of your time. Here, you watch your mother spin wool on a distaff, her fingers deftly twisting fibers into thread. Or you follow your father as he inspects a batch of pottery destined for the market. These tasks, mundane to adult eyes, are your first lessons in Athenian survival, self-reliance for boys, domestic skill for girls. The household is a busy ecosystem, If your family is of modest means, perhaps owning a small plot of land or a workshop, you share the space with 1 or 2 slaves who fetch water from the public fountain or tend the small herd of goats. You might trail behind them, clutching a clay cup, curious about their work but unaware of their lack of freedom. Your siblings, if any, are your playmates, rolling wooden hoops or tossing knucklebones in the dust. Play is unstructured but constant, filling gaps between chores. A favorite game involves stacking broken pottery shards into miniature towers, mimicking the city's grander architecture, like the Parthenon, still under construction during your childhood. Clothing is practical, a short chiton of linen or wool, often handed down from an older sibling, leaving your arms free for play or small tasks. Footwear is rare indoors. Your bare feet patter on cool terracotta tiles or packed earth. Hygiene is basic, but deliberate sure mother rubs your skin with olive oil to ward off dryness, and you're bathed in a bronze basin with water hauled from the Krunos fountain. Public health is a concern. Open sewers in Athens streets mean you're taught to avoid puddles, lest disease like dysentery take hold, as it did during the plague years described by Thucydides. Religion weaves through your day. A small altar in the courtyard, adorned with terracotta figurines of Hestia, goddess of the hearth, is where your family offers daily libations, wine or milk poured onto the ground. You're too young to grasp the god's significance, but you mimic your parents' gestures, learning reverence. Festivals like the Panathenea loom large, though your role is minor, perhaps carrying a tiny basket of offerings in the procession, awed by the city's splendor. As you navigate this world of work and play, a question tugs at your mind. How will these daily routines, so ordinary yet so vital, prepare you for the sharply divided paths of Athenian boyhood or girlhood that lie ahead? By now, as a young child in an Athenian household, you're no longer just an observer, but a participant in the oikos' daily grind. At 5 or 6, you're sturdy enough to carry out small chores, your hands grasping tools or baskets with a mix of clumsiness and pride. The courtyard, with its hard-packed earth and scattering of straw mats, remains your domain, but you're beginning to notice the world beyond its walls. Athens, vibrant with trade, politics, and war, pulses in the background, its influence seeping into your life through stories overheard and the comings and goings of your father. A citizen, perhaps, balancing civic duties with maintaining the household's modest income. Your chores reflect your gender's future role. If you're a boy, you might be sent to fetch kindling for the hearth or help sort olives, learning the weight of labor that citizenship demands. Girls, meanwhile, are drawn into the gynekon, where your mother teaches you to card wool, separating fibers with a comb, or to knead dough for flatbread. These tasks, repetitive and uncelebrated, are the backbone of the household's economy. Wealthier families might employ more slaves, freeing their children for play, but in your modest home, everyone contributes. Slaves, often captured in war, or born into servitude, work alongside you. Their presence a quiet reminder of Athens' reliance on unfree labor. About a third of the city's 250,000 people were enslaved. Play remains a vital escape. You chase friends through the courtyard, kicking a leather ball stuffed with rags, or racing to balance on a low wall. Knucklebones, now a competitive pastime, teach you strategy as you wager small trinkets with peers. These games, though simple, mirror Athens' competitive spirit, seen in its athletic festivals or naval rivalries with Sparta. Your toys' clay animals or wooden dolls are often homemade, their rough edges smoothed by use. Archaeologists have found such items in children's graves, suggesting their emotional weight, a link to fleeting moments of joy in a world where childhood mortality hovers at 20 to 30%. The household's rhythm is punctuated by communal moments. Meals, taken twice daily, gathered the family around a low table. You eat lentils, onions, and fish when the harvest or trade allows, flavored with herbs like thyme. Watered wine, a staple, is served in clay cups, its dilution a nod to both thrift and health. Storytelling follows, with your father recounting myths of Theseus or news from the Knicks, where citizens debate war taxes. These tales spark your imagination, planting seeds of civic pride or, for girls, an awareness of their domestic destiny. Religion shapes your moral world. You learn to sprinkle barley grains before sacrifices at the household altar, a practice tying you to Athens' spiritual life. The Anthesteria Festival, where you sip diluted wine from a tiny jug, feels like a rite of passage, though you sense the adults' focus on Dionysus's mysteries excludes you. Health, too, is a concern. Cuts from rough play might be treated with honey or wrapped in linen, but fevers spark fear with only prayers or costly visits to an Asclepius sanctuary as recourse. As you grow, the divide between boys and girls sharpens. Boys hear of schooling and military training, girls of weaving and eventual betrothal. What will it mean to step beyond the courtyard into a city that values your role but limits your freedom? At 6 or 7, you're no longer just a child of the oikos, but a young Athenian shaped by its demands and dreams. The household, with its mud brick walls and smoky hearth, is your training ground, where daily life blends labor, learning, and the weight of Athens' social order. The city, now in its golden age, under leaders like Pericles, thrives on democracy and culture. But for you, its grandeur is filtered through the lens of chores, play, and the looming expectations of your gender and status. Your small hands, now skilled at simple tasks, carry the weight of a society that values resilience above all. Your role in the household is more defined. Boys might accompany their fathers to the fields, learning to prune olive trees or carry water for irrigation, tasks that hint at the physical demands of hoplite service or land ownership. Girls spend hours in the gynekon, mastering the loom's rhythm or grinding grain with a stone quern, their work ensuring the family's self-sufficiency. Slaves, ever present, handle heavier tasks, hauling amphorae of oil or cleaning the latrine butt. You're beginning to see their exclusion from the polis privileges. Your family's modest status means you work alongside them, yet your future, whether as a citizen or a wife, sets you apart. Play evolves into preparation. Boys mimic wrestling moves seen at the gymnasium, their games echoing the Panathenaic Games' competitive spirit. Girls, with their clay dolls, enact domestic scenes, practicing for a life centered on the hearth. These moments of play, found in archaeological records of toy votives at sanctuaries, are fleeting but formative, teaching you the polis values courage for boys, duty for girls. The courtyard, once your entire world, now feels small as you glimpse Athens' bustling streets, where merchants hawk wares and philosophers like Anaxagoras debate the cosmos. Health remains a fragile thread. A cough could signal danger. Without modern sanitation, diseases spread quickly in Athens' crowded quarters. Your mother might apply a poultice of crushed garlic or lead you to pray at a street-side shrine to Artemis. Survival depends on such remedies and the family's vigilance. Meals, though, grow heartier as you age barley porridge with figs, occasional cheese, or fish from Piraeus port-fueling your growth. These shared meals, eaten cross-legged on mats, reinforce family bonds with stories of Athens' naval victories or myths of Athena's wisdom shaping your worldview. Religious life deepens your sense of belonging. You join the family at festivals like the Thergelia, carrying branches to honor Apollo, feeling Athens' communal pulse. Yet the polis divisions are clearer now. Boys are groomed for public life, their names soon registered in phratry records. Girls learn their value lies in marriage, often arranged by their early teens. The Peloponnesian War's shadow looms, with fathers and brothers called to serve, leaving the household leaner and your responsibilities heavier. Reflecting on this, you see how these ordinary days filled with chores, play, and ritual wove the fabric of Athens' golden age. The resilience of children like you, balancing labor and learning, sustained a city that birthed democracy and art. How did these quiet routines, so easily overlooked, fuel a civilization whose ideas still shape our world today? Education and schooling for Athenian boys. Imagine yourself as a 7-year-old boy in 5th century BCE Athens, stepping out of the familiar courtyard of your family's mud brick home into a world that expects you to become a citizen of the polis. The air is crisp with the scent of olive groves and distant sea salt from Piraeus, Athens' bustling port. Your kitten, a simple linen tunic, flaps against your knees as you clutch a waxed tablet and stylus, your first tools of learning. For boys like you, born to citizen families, education is not just a privilege, but a duty, a path to becoming a full member of Athenian society. In a city of about 250,000, where democracy thrives under leaders like Pericles, schooling shapes you for the assembly, the law courts, or the battlefield. Yet the journey is modest, rooted in the daily grind of lessons and discipline. Your education begins at home or with a local teacher, as Athens lacks formal public schools. Wealthier families hire a pedagogos, often a trusted slave, to escort you to a private teacher's home, a small room with wooden benches and a dirt floor. Most boys, though, including you, likely study with a grammatist, a teacher of basic literacy, in a nearby neighborhood. Lessons start at dawn, and you walk through Athens' narrow streets, dodging merchants and stray dogs, to reach a makeshift classroom. Your teacher, a bearded man in a worn cloak, is no philosopher but a practical instructor, often a citizen supplementing his income. The tools are simple: a wax tablet for writing, a reed pen, and broken pottery shards for practice. The curriculum centers on reading, writing, and arithmetic. You trace letters of the Greek alphabet on your tablet, copying lines from Homer's Iliad or Odyssey, texts revered as moral and cultural guides. Memorization is key. You recite passages aloud, your voice joining others in a rhythmic chant that echoes through the room. Writing is laborious, scratching letters into wax or inking them on papyrus, a costly material reserved for final drafts. Arithmetic involves pebbles or an abacus, teaching you to calculate trade sums or military ration skills, vital for Athens' economy and wars. Discipline is strict. A misstep earns a swat from a leather strap, a reminder that learning is serious. Business. Beyond academics, physical training begins to shape your body. You visit a palestra, a wrestling school, for basic exercises like running or throwing a ball, preparing you for the military service expected of citizens. These sessions, held in open courtyards, are less formal than later gymnasia, but instill strength and camaraderie. Music, too, is part of your education. You learn to play the lyre, strumming simple tunes to honor Apollo, blending art with civic duty. These lessons, though, are costlier family sacrifices to pay fees, perhaps a few drachmas monthly, a burden for a modest household reliant on olive harvests or pottery sales. Your world is still small, but the polis expectations loom large. You overhear talk of Socrates in the agora or debates in the Knicks, hinting at the intellectual life awaiting you. As you scratch Homer's verses into wax, a question stirs. How will these lessons, so tedious yet so vital, mold you into the citizen Athens demands? Now, as an Athenian boy of 8 or 9, your education deepens, pulling you further from the carefree days of courtyard play. The streets of Athens, lined with sun-bleached homes and bustling with traders, feel more familiar as you trudge to your teacher's house, tablet slung over your shoulder. The polis, thriving in its golden age, expects you to master skills that will sustain its democracy and defend its walls. Your lessons, though repetitive, are no longer just about letters or numbers, but about becoming a man of Athens, eloquent, strong, and disciplined. Your grammatists now demands more precision. You copy longer passages from Hesiod or Sappho, grappling with complex words and ideas. Writing is a struggle. Your stylus slips on the wax tablet, smudging letters, and your teacher's sharp voice corrects your errors. You learn to write on astraca, practicing until your letters are neat, a skill vital for legal or commercial records. Arithmetic grows harder, calculating land measurements or ship cargo. Weights preparing you for practical tasks like managing a farm or serving on a trireme. Mistakes bring the sting of a strap, but praise for a well-recited verse feels like a rare victory. These lessons, rooted in the practical needs of the polis, instill a sense of duty. Though you sometimes long for the simplicity of knucklebones, physical training intensifies at the palestra, where you wrestle and race under the watchful eye of a trainer, often a retired hoplite. Your muscles ache from practicing holds or sprinting across the sandy courtyard, but you're learning the endurance needed for Athens' phalanx formations. Scratches and bruises are common. Olive oil and strigil scrapings clean your skin after each session. Music lessons to grow more structured. You practice the lyre or aloes, a double reed flute, learning melodies for religious festivals. These skills, though less practical than literacy, tie you to Athens' cultural pride. As music and poetry elevate civic gatherings, your pedagogos, if you have one, drills you on etiquette, how to address elders or behave at symposia preparing you for public life. For boys of modest means like you, without such a guide, your father or an uncle imparts these lessons, their stern voices echoing the polis high expectations. You begin to notice the divide between yourself and non-citizen boys, like the sons of medics or slaves, who rarely attend such lessons, their futures tied to labor rather than leadership. The city's vibrancy surrounds you. On walks to lessons, you pass the agora, where philosophers like Anaxagoras debate and potters hawk their wares. You hear whispers of the Peloponnesian War's tensions, stirring thoughts of your future as a hoplite. Festivals like the Dionysia, where you glimpse tragic performances, hint at the cultural depth your education aims to unlock. Yet, the long hours of study and training weigh heavily, and you wonder, will this relentless preparation truly ready you for the complexities of Athenian citizenship? At 10 or 11, you stand on the cusp of Athenian boyhood's end. Your education now a bridge to the responsibilities of citizenship. The classroom, the palestra, and the music school have sculpted your mind and body, but the weight of Athens' expectations presses harder. The city, at the peak of its 5th century BCE glory, demands you become a versatile citizen orator, warrior, and thinker. Your days, filled with rigorous lessons and physical drills, are no longer just preparation, but a transformation, forging you into a cog in the polis democratic machine. Yet the monotony of study and the bruises of training make you question its cost. Your lessons with the grammatists now include rhetoric, the art of persuasion, vital for the assembly or law courts. You practice speeches, mimicking Demosthenes' cadence, learning to sway crowds with logic and passion. Writing is second nature. Your stylus glides smoothly across wax tablets, recording laws or trade agreements. Arithmetic tackles real-world problems, calculating taxes for the Delian League or provisions for a military campaign. Errors still earn correction, but your growing skill earns nods of approval, a sign you're nearing readiness for public life. In the palestra, your body harden. Wrestling and javelin throwing build strength for hoplite service, while long runs mimic the endurance needed for marches to Marathon or Plataea. You learn to handle a wooden spear, its weight a reminder of the shield you'll carry as a man. Injuries are lessons in resilience. A twisted ankle or scraped knee, treated with oil and linen, teaches you to push through pain. Music lessons, now more refined, prepare you for civic roles, playing the lyre at religious rites or leading hymns at festivals like the Panathenea, where you march in processions. Awed by the Parthenon's rising columns, your understanding of Athens' social order deepens. You see citizen boys like yourself groomed for power, while medic and slave children, often your former playmates, face different fates: labor or trade, not leadership. Your father or pedagogos teaches you the nuances of citizenship, voting, jury duty, and military service. At festivals, you glimpse the city's unity, yet war tales Sparta's growing treachery mind you of its fragility. The intellectual buzz of the agora, where Socrates probes passersby, hints at the philosophical challenges awaiting you. This education, though grueling, is Athens' genius. It produced citizens who built democracy, defeated Persia, and birthed tragedy and philosophy. Your countless hours of study, sweat, and song have made you part of this legacy, a boy poised to uphold a civilization's ideals. Reflecting on this, you see how these mundane routines reciting Homer, wrestling in dust, strumming the lyre created a society that balanced freedom with duty. How did this disciplined upbringing of ordinary boys like you enable Athens to shine so brightly, its light still guiding our modern notions of citizenship and culture? The upbringing of Athenian girls at home. Envision yourself as a young girl of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens. Your world confined to the sunlit courtyard and shaded gynekon of your family's mud brick home. The air hums with the scent of wool being spun and the faint clink of clay pots as your mother prepares a meal of lentils and barley. Unlike your brothers who venture out for schooling, your life is rooted in the oikos, the household, where your education is not in letters or rhetoric, but in the quiet arts of domesticity. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy and war dominate the public sphere, Athenian girls, like you, are raised for a singular purpose: to become skilled wives and mothers, guardians of the hearth in a society that prizes male citizenship above all. Your days begin with the rhythm of household tasks. You wake to the sound of your mother or a slave grinding grain on a stone quern, the repetitive scrape setting the tempo of the morning. Dressed in a simple chiton, a linen or woolen dress pinned at the shoulders, you join her in the gynekon, a secluded room where women work away from male eyes. Your mother, perhaps in her early 20s, teaches you to card wool, separating tangled fibers with a wooden comb. The task is tedious, your small fingers fumbling, but its vital wool spun into thread will become cloth for clothing or trade, sustaining the family's economy. You learn by watching, mimicking her steady hands, absorbing lessons in patience and precision. The courtyard, open to the sky, is your playground and classroom. Here, you play with clay dolls, their painted faces chipped from use, enacting scenes of marriage or motherhood that mirror your future. These toys, often found in Athenian graves, are more than playthings. They're tools to prepare you for a life centered on family. You might help fetch water from a clay hydria, balancing it carefully as you mimic the older women who trudge to the public fountain. Meals are simple: bread, figs, and diluted wine eaten on low stools, where you listen to your mother's stories of Athena, goddess of wisdom and weaving, who protects the household. Religion is woven into your routine. You help your mother pour libations of milk at a small altar to Hestia, learning the sacred gestures that tie the oikos to the gods. Festivals like the Thesmophoria, though reserved for adult women, are whispered about, hinting at the rituals you'll one day join. Health is a constant concern. A fever could be deadly, and your mother applies olive oil or herbal poultices to keep you well. The polis bustle debates in the agora. The clash of hoplites feels distant, but you sense its weight in your father's absence, called to civic or military duties. Your world is small, yet the expectations are immense. As you spin wool or cradle a doll, you begin to wonder, how will these quiet, repetitive tasks shape you for the marriage and motherhood that Athens decrees as your destiny? At 8 or 9, your life as an Athenian girl deepens within the walls of the oikos, where the gynekon and courtyard remain your domain. The city of Athens, vibrant with the construction of the Parthenon and the hum of democratic debate, feels like a distant echo, its public spaces reserved for men. Your education, unlike your brother's formal lessons, is practical, rooted in the daily grind of household management. You're learning to be the heart of a future household, a role that demands skill, resilience, and an unspoken acceptance of the polis gendered order. The scent of olive oil and baking bread fills your home, grounding you in a world of routine that is both comforting and relentless. Your tasks grow more complex. You now weave on a small loom, threading wool under your mother's watchful eye. The process is slow warping the loom, passing the shuttle, beating the weft tight, but it teaches you precision and endurance. A single blanket or chiton could take weeks. Its quality, a measure of your family's status. You also learn to cook, stirring barley porridge over a brazier or shaping dough into flatbreads. These skills are vital. A household's prosperity depends on its women's ability to produce food and clothing. Slaves, if your family owns them, handle heavier tasks like hauling water or cleaning, but you work alongside them, blurring the lines of status in childhood. Though their servitude is clear, play still punctuates your day, though it's tinged with purpose. Your clay dolls now have names, and you dress them in scraps of cloth, practicing the sewing you'll need for your own trousseau. Games with other girls, perhaps daughters of neighbors, involve spinning tops or singing songs about marriage, subtly reinforcing your future. These moments, fleeting and joyful, are tempered by the reality of high childhood mortality. Archaeological finds of dolls in graves remind us that not all girls reached adulthood. You're taught to avoid the open sewers in Athens streets, where disease lurks, and to bathe regularly in a bronze basin, your skin rubbed with oil to ward off the dry attic air. Religion shapes your moral world. You mimic your mother's offerings at the household altar, learning prayers to Artemis, protector of young girls. Festivals like the Eryphria, where select girls carry sacred objects for Athena, are a distant dream, but you hear tales of them, sparking pride in your role as a future caretaker of tradition. Your mother's stories of mythical heroines like Penelope, weaving faithfully for Odysseus, blend with practical lessons, tying your identity to the loom and hearth. The polis expectations grow clearer. Your brothers speak of school and military training, while you hear whispers of betrothal, perhaps by your early teens. The Peloponnesian War's shadow fathers and brothers, called awamines. More work falls to you and your mother. As you weave or knead dough, a question lingers. How will these skills, honed in the quiet of the Gynekon, prepare you for a life where your voice is rarely heard beyond the household? Now, at 10 or 11, you stand on the edge of girlhood. In your Athenian home, your hands skilled at the loom and your mind shaped by the oikos' unspoken rules. The city outside, with its 250,000 citizens and soaring temples, thrives on the labor and silence of girls like you, trained to sustain households that underpin Athens' glory. Your days blend weaving, cooking, and religious duties, each task a step toward marriage, the polis' ultimate goal for you. The courtyard, once a playground, is now a workspace where you prove your worth. Your chiton stained with dye or flour, your fingers calloused from spinning. Your responsibilities have grown. You weave full garments now, perhaps a pepless for your mother, your shuttle moving with rhythm across the loom. You oversee younger siblings or slaves in small tasks like fetching kindling or grinding grain. learning to manage a household as your mother does. Cooking is more intricate too. Mix herbs into lentil stew or bake barley cakes for festivals, ensuring the family's sustenance. These skills, honed daily, are your education, as vital to Athens as your brother's rhetoric or spear drills. Slaves, making up a third of the city's population, ease your burden, but your family's modest means keep you busy, your work blurring into theirs. Play is rarer now, replaced by preparation. Your dolls, once playmates, are now votives offered at Artemis' shrine to mark your transition toward womanhood. Games with friends, singing or dancing in the courtyard, mimic the rituals of marriage processions, preparing you for betrothal. Health remains precarious. A cut or fever, treated with honey or prayers, could derail your path. Your mother's vigilance ensuring you eat figs and fish, avoiding tainted water, keeps you strong. Though the memory of the plague years lingers, a reminder of fragility, religion anchors you. You join your mother in offerings to Hestia or Demeter, learning the precise gestures of libations. Festivals like the Thesmophoria, where women gather to honor fertility, hint at your future role. Though you're still too young to participate fully, the polis gendered divide is stark. Your brothers prepare for the assembly, while you're groomed for a husband's home, your dowry already a topic of hushed talks. Wars impact fathers absent, resources scarce forces you to take on more. Your hands steady despite the uncertainty. Reflecting on this, you see how your quiet labor sustained Athens. Girls like you, weaving cloth and tending hearths, freed men for politics and war, enabling the polis to build democracy and art. Your upbringing, though confined, was the foundation of a civilization that prized freedom yet limited yours. How did these unseen efforts of Athenian girls, so ordinary yet so essential, shape a society whose legacy of philosophy, governance, and culture still resonates in our world today? Toys, games, and play in ancient Athens. Picture yourself as a child of 5 or 6 in 5th century BCE Athens, scampering across the sun-warmed courtyard of your family's mud-brick home. The air carries the scent of olive oil and dust, mingling with the distant clamor of the agora. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy and war shape adult lives, your world revolves around play, a vital escape that teaches you the skills and values of the polis through simple toys and games. As a child, whether boy or girl, free or enslaved, play is your domain, a space of joy and learning in a society that demands resilience. The toys you clutch and the games you play, though humble, are threads in Athens' cultural tapestry, shaping you for the roles you'll one day assume. Your toys are crafted from the materials of daily life. A clay rattle shaped like a pig, filled with pebbles, jangles in your hands, its painted eyes faded from use. You roll a wooden hoop with a stick, dodging chickens in the courtyard, or toss knucklebones, small sheep bones used as Dyson, a game of chance with siblings or the children of household slaves. These knucklebones, found in Athenian graves, are prized possessions, teaching you numbers and strategy. For girls, clay dolls with movable limbs, dressed in scraps of wool, mimic the domestic roles you'll inherit. Boys might wield tiny terracotta horses, imagining themselves as hoplites charging into battle. Play happens in the courtyard or nearby alleys, where you join other children, regardless of status, in games that mirror Athens' competitive spirit. You kick a leather ball stuffed with rags, a precursor to athletic contests at the Panathenaic Games, or race to stack pottery shards into wobbly towers, echoing the city's architectural ambitions. These games, though unstructured, teach cooperation and rivalry, values prized in the assembly or on the battlefield. Laughter fills the air, but play is fleeting chores, like fetching water or helping with the loom, often call you back. Your family, likely of modest means, crafts these toys themselves or trades for them in the market. Wealthier households might boast bronze, rattles, or painted dolls, but your simple versions carry the same weight of imagination. The polis rhythm seeps into play. Festivals like the Anthosteria see you crowned with flowers, sipping diluted wine from a tiny jug, mimicking adult rituals. Yet, dangers lurk upon sewers in the streets, risk disease, and a fall could mean a scraped knee treated with olive oil or honey. The only remedies available. Religion touches even your games. You dedicate a favorite doll or bone to Artemis at a household altar, learning early to honor the gods. As you chase your hoop or toss knucklebones, you sense the polis watching, its expectations shaping even these moments of freedom. What lessons are hidden in these carefree games, and how will they prepare you for the divided paths of Athenian life that loom just beyond childhood? Now, at 7 or 8, your play in ancient Athens evolves, blending joy with subtle preparation for the polis demands. The courtyard of your family's home, with its packed earth and scattered straw mats, remains your playground, but the games you play and the toys you cherish carry new weight. Athens, thriving in its golden age under Pericles, pulses with civic pride and military tension, and your childhood games begin to reflect the skills you'll need as a citizen or caretaker of the oikos. The line between play and purpose blurs, as each toss of a bone or spin of a top teaches you the resilience and cunning valued by a city of 25000. Your toys grow more intricate. Knucklebones are now a competitive obsession. You wager small trinkets beads or broken pottery with friends, learning to bluff and strategize like merchants in the agora. Boys clutch wooden swords or miniature shields, mimicking hoplite drills seen at the palestra, their games foreshadowing military service. Girls dress their clay dolls in tiny woven chitons, practicing stitches for the trousseau they'll one day prepare. These toys, often found in archaeological digs, are not just playthings but tools of socialization, embedding Athens' gendered roles. A terracotta horse or rattle, lovingly crafted by your father or a local artisan, might be your most treasured possession. It's where a testament to hours of play. Games become more structured. You play astragaloi, a knucklebone game, where landing patterns score points, sharpening your focus and math skills. Group games like Blind Man's Buff or Tag in the Alleys teach agility and teamwork, echoing the phalanx's coordination. Boys might wrestle in the dust, copying moves from the Panathenaic Games, while girls sing songs about Penelope or Andromache, their voices carrying myths that reinforce domestic virtues. These moments of play, though joyful, are fleeting. Like grinding grain or fetching kindling interrupt, and the ever-present slaves who share your games remind you of the polis hierarchies. The city's pulse shapes your play. Festivals like the Dionysia bring puppet shows or street games where you mimic actors' gestures, absorbing Athens' love for drama. Health remains a concern. A scraped shin from roughhousing might be rubbed with oil, but fevers spark fear. Treated only with herbs or prayers to Asclepius, your diet barley porridge, figs, and occasional fish fuels your energy. But malnutrition from poor harvests could weaken you, a risk in a city reliant on trade and agriculture. Religion infuses your games with meaning. You offer a broken doll or a bone at the household altar, learning devotion to Hestia or Artemis. The polis gendered expectations grow clearer. Boys' games prepare them for public life, while girls play mirrors the hearth as you laugh and race through the courtyard. A question lingers: how will these games, so full of joy yet steeped in purpose, shape the adult you'll become in Athens' rigid social order? At 9 or 10, your childhood in Athens nears its end, and play becomes a final bastion of freedom before the polis expectations fully claim you. The courtyard, once your boundless world, now feels small against the backdrop of Athens. 5th century BCE grandeur, its temples rising, its navy dominating the Aegean. Your games and toys, though still cherished, are increasingly laced with the skills and values you'll carry into adulthood, whether as a citizen, soldier, or wife. In a city of 250,000, where democracy and culture flourish, your play has been a quiet education, shaping you for a society that thrives on discipline and resilience. Your games now mirror Athens' competitive spirit. Knucklebones tournaments with neighborhood children hone your strategy as you calculate throws to outwit opponents, a skill akin to rhetoric in the assembly. Boys stage mock battles with wooden spears, their shouts echoing hoplite clashes, preparing for military service that looms closer. Girls weave intricate outfits for their dolls, practicing the loom work that will define their role in the oikos. These toys, clay figures, wooden tops, or rag-stuffed balls, are often homemade. Their importance, archaeological. Finds of such items in children's graves show their emotional weight, a link to fleeting childhoods cut short by disease or accident. Group play grows complex. You organize races or tug-of-war in the alleys, learning leadership and cooperation, traits vital for Athens' democratic or military endeavors. Girls sing and dance in circles, mimicking marriage rituals, their steps, a rehearsal for future ceremonies. Festivals like the Panathenea bring communal play, where you join processions or watch athletic contests, your small frame dwarfed by the city's splendor. The agoras buzz, with philosophers like Socrates debating, hints at the intellectual world your play indirectly prepares you for. Health remains a gamble. Rough play might leave bruises treated with olive oil, while fevers spark prayers at Artemis' shrine. Your diet, lentils, bread, and occasional cheese sustains your energy. But the threat of malnutrition or plague, as seen in 430 BCE, looms. Slaves who share your games face harsher realities, their exclusion from citizenship, a growing awareness as you age. Religion ties play to the divine. You dedicate a worn toy to Apollo, learning the polis spiritual rhythm. Reflecting on this, you see how play was Athens' hidden curriculum. Your games, knucklebones, mock battles, dull dressing taught resilience, strategy, and duty, sustaining a civilization that birthed democracy and art. These moments of joy, so ordinary yet so purposeful, prepared countless children for lives that upheld the polis. How did this playful foundation, often overlooked, enable Athens to forge a legacy of culture and governance that still shapes our modern world? Religious rites and festivals in a child's world. Imagine yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, standing in the courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air thick with the scent of burning olive oil and barley cakes, offered at a small altar to Hestia, in a city of some 250,000, where democracy and war shape the adult world. Religion is the heartbeat of your childhood. As a young Athenian, whether boy or girl, your days are woven with rituals and festivals that tie you to the gods and the polis. These moments, from quiet household offerings to vibrant citywide celebrations, are not just duties, but a lens through which you see Athens' values. Learning, devotion, and community in a society that reveres its deities as guardians of survival. Your religious education begins at home. Each morning, you watch your mother pour a libation of milk or watered wine onto the household altar, a simple stone slab adorned with terracotta figurines of Hestia, goddess of the hearth. You mimic her gestures, sprinkling barley grains before the offering, your small hands learning the precise motions that honor the gods. These rituals, though routine, are vital. Neglecting them risks divine displeasure, believed to bring drought or disease. Your father, if a citizen, might lead prayers to Zeus before leaving for the assembly, his voice solemn as he seeks protection for the oikos. Your family unit. Festivals punctuate your year, pulling you into Athens' communal rhythm. A 3-day festival honoring Dionysus is your favorite. At 6, you're old enough to join the procession, crowned with flowers and clutching a tiny clay jug of diluted wine. Your first taste, a tangy thrill. The streets burst with song and laughter, but you sense a deeper mystery in the adults. Hushed rituals, closed to children. For girls, the Euphoria looms as a distant honor-select maidens carry sacred objects for Athena, a role you dream of. Boys hear of the Apaturia, where they'll one day be presented to their father's phratry, cementing their path to citizenship. The polis temples, like the rising Parthenon, all you during rare outings. You gaze at Athena's statue, her bronze spear glinting, feeling small yet connected to the city's divine protectors. Health and survival are tied to these rites. A fever might prompt your mother to dedicate a clay doll to Artemis, praying for your recovery. The ever-present threat of plague, as seen in 430 BCE, makes these offerings urgent. Your toys' knucklebones or rattles sometimes become votives, left at shrines to seek favor as you pour libations or march in processions. You feel Athens' spiritual pulse, but a question stirs. How do these rituals, so woven into your daily life, shape your place in a polis that balances devotion with the demands of war and democracy? Now, at 8 or 9, your role in Athens' religious life grows, as the gods become more than names but forces shaping your world. The courtyard of your home, with its small altar to Hestia, remains your spiritual center, but you're beginning to grasp the deeper meaning of the rituals you perform. Athens, in its 5th century BCE golden age, thrives on its devotion to the divine, and as a child, you're woven into this tapestry through daily offerings and vibrant festivals. These moments, though steeped in routine, teach you the polis values piety, community, and resilience in a city of 250,000, where the gods are as real as the olive groves or the agoras. Buzz, your daily tasks now include assisting with household rites. You carefully place barley cakes on the altar, your hands steadier as you pour wine or oil, mimicking your mother's precise gestures. These offerings, meant to appease Hestia or Demeter, are a child's duty, reinforcing the oikos' survival. You learn prayers by rote, their rhythmic cadence soothing yet heavy with responsibility. Neglecting the gods could bring misfortune, bad harvest, or illness, so you take care, even if the weight of divine favor feels distant. Your father might involve you in offerings to Zeus or Apollo, especially before he departs for civic duties. Tying your small world to the polis' broader fate, festivals draw you deeper into Athens' spiritual life. The Panathenea, honoring Athena, is a spectacle. Your family joins the procession to the Acropolis, and you carry a small basket of offerings, awed by the city's unity. Boys your age dream of the Apaturia, where they'll be registered in Fretry records, a step toward citizenship. Girls hear of the Thesmophoria, a women-only festival for Demeter, and you begin to understand your future role in such rites. The Dionysia brings theater and song, and you mimic performers' gestures in the courtyard, blending play with reverence. These festivals, though joyful, hint at the polis gendered pathsboys for public life, girls for domestic devotion. Health and religion intertwine. A cough or cut, common in Athens' crowded quarters, prompts offerings at Artemis' shrine, where you leave a clay figurine or knucklebone. The plague of 430 BCE lingers in memory, making these acts urgent. Your family's survival depends on divine favor. The polis temples, like the Erechtheion, become familiar as you visit with your mother to pray for prosperity. Slaves, who join in some rites, remind you of Athens' hierarchies, their devotion less recognized than yours. The city's pulse debates in the Knicks, war with Sparta seeps into your rituals. You hear of oracles and sacrifices guiding Athens' decisions, and you wonder how your small offerings fit into this grand divine order. As you stand by the altar, barley grains in hand, a question lingers. How will these rituals, so central to your childhood, prepare you for the roles Athens expects you to play? At 10 or 11, you stand on the cusp of leaving childhood behind. Your place in Athens' religious life, now a bridge to adulthood. The courtyard altar, once a place of mimicry, is now where you lead simple rites, your voice steady as you pray to Hestia or Artemis. Athens, in its 5th century BCE splendor, relies on its 250,000 citizens' devotion to sustain its glory, and your childhood rituals have woven you into this spiritual fabric. Festivals and offerings, once joyful outings, now carry the weight of the polis expectations, preparing you for a life of citizenship or domestic piety in a society that balances divine favor with war and democracy. You now perform household rites with purpose. You light the altar's fire, offering barley cakes or wine, your actions ensuring the oikos' harmony. These tasks, though repetitive, tie you to Athens, survival neglecting the gods, risks calamity as stories of drought or plague remind you. Boys begin preparing for the apaturia, where you'll be presented to your phratry, a ritual affirming your path to citizenship. Girls learn of the Eryphria or Thesmophoria, where women honor Athena or Demeter, and you practice weaving sacred cloths, your loom work a quiet offering to the gods. Festivals are now central to your identity. The Panathenaea sees you march to the Acropolis, perhaps carrying a woven peplos for Athena's statue, your small role vital to the city's pride. The Dionysia fills streets with drama, and you join children chanting hymns, your voice part of Athens' cultural pulse. These moments, blending joy and duty, teach you the polis unity. Though you notice slaves' exclusion from full participation, their offerings less celebrated. Health remains tied to Phaetha. Fever prompts a pilgrimage to Asclepius' sanctuary, where you leave a clay votive, praying for recovery in a city scarred by plague. The polis grandeur its temples, its navy rests. On these rituals, you hear of oracles guiding war strategies or sacrifices before battles, and your small offerings feel part of this divine machinery. The Peloponnesian War's shadow grows, with fathers absent, leaving you to lead rites in their stead. For boys, this means preparing for civic duties. For girls, it's mastering the hearth's sacred role, the agorist debates, where philosophers, like Socrates' question, divine will hint at complexities you'll soon face. Reflecting on this, you see how childhood rites built Athens' strength. Your offerings, processions, and prayers, so ordinary yet so vital, sustained a city that birthed democracy and philosophy. These acts of devotion, often overlooked, ensured the polis resilience, freeing men for politics and war, while grounding women in spiritual duty. How did these quiet rituals of children like you, woven into daily life, uphold a civilization whose spiritual and cultural legacy still echoes? In our modern world, health, medicine, and childhood illnesses, picture yourself as a child of 5 or 6 in 5th century BCE Athens, your small frame darting through the courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air heavy with the scent of olive oil and dust. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy thrives and the Parthenon rises, your health is a fragile thread in the fabric of the oikos, your family unit. Childhood in Athens is fraught with unseen dangers. Disease lurks in crowded streets, and medical knowledge, though advancing under figures like Hippocrates, is limited. For you, a scraped knee or a fever is not just a discomfort, but a potential threat, met with a mix of herbal remedies, prayers, and the resilience of a society accustomed to survival. Your health is your family's priority, yet their tools are basic. A fall while chasing a wooden hoop might leave a bruise, treated with olive oil rubbed into your skin to soothe and prevent infection. Cuts from broken pottery are washed with water from the public fountain, often carried by slaves, and wrapped in linen. Food is your first medicine. Barley, porridge, figs, and diluted wine provide nutrients, but poor harvests can mean hunger, weakening your small body. Water, drawn from wells or fountains, like the Akrunos, is often murky, and dysentery a killer, described by Thucydides during the plague of 430 BC, looms as a constant risk. Your mother, the household's healer, relies on tradition and superstition. A cough might be treated with a poultice of crushed garlic or honey, believed to draw out illness. Fevers prompt offerings at a small altar to Artemis, goddess of childbirth and protector of the young, where a clay figurine or knucklebone is left to seek divine favor. Physicians trained in emerging Hippocratic methods are rare and costly, reserved for the wealthy. Your family, likely of modest means, depends on home remedies and prayers, their efficacy uncertain in a world without antibiotics or sanitation. The polis, crowded quarters, amplify risks. Open sewers in Athens streets breed disease, and you're taught to avoid puddles. The plague, a recent memory, claimed up to a third of the city, and its shadow lingers in your parents' cautious eyes. Festivals like the Anthesteria, where you sip diluted wine, bring joy but also exposure to crowds, heightening the chance of illness. Your diet, though simple, is carefully managed lentils and fish when available to keep you strong, but malnutrition weakens many children, especially in lean years. Religion and health intertwine. You join your mother in prayers to Asclepius, god of healing, at a household shrine, learning that survival depends on both human effort and divine will. As you clutch a rag-stuffed ball or rest with a fever, a question stirs. How will your family's meager remedies and fervent prayers shield you from the unseen threats that haunt Athenian childhood? At 7 or 8, you're more aware of the fragility of your health in 5th century BCE Athens, where the bustle of the polis's 250,000 citizens, vibrant agora, and rising temples hides a constant battle against disease. Your days spent playing knucklebones or helping with chores in the courtyard are shadowed by the ever-present risk of illness. The oikos, your family's home, is your sanctuary, but its mud brick walls offer little protection against fevers or infections. With medical knowledge limited and the memory of the 430 BCE plague vivid, your family's efforts to keep you well blend practical care with desperate appeals to the gods. Reflecting Athens' blend of resilience and faith, your mother's remedies grow more familiar. A sore throat is met with a warm drink of honey and herbs, like thyme or fennel, steeped in water, hauled from a fountain. A cut from rough play, perhaps wrestling with siblings, is cleaned with vinegar and bound with linen strips, a practice rooted in trial and error. Serious ailments, like a persistent cough, prompt a visit to a street-side shrine to Asclepius, where your mother leaves a clay votive shaped like a lung or leg, hoping for divine healing. These offerings, found in archaeological digs, show the desperation of families facing illnesses they barely understood. Physicians, following Hippocrates' teachings about balancing bodily humors, are a luxury. Your family relies on inherited wisdom and the polis communal knowledge. Diet is your shield, though it's precarious. You eat barley bread, lentils, and occasional fish from Piraeus, but a bad harvest can shrink meals, leaving you listless. Malnutrition, common among Athens' poorer children, weakens resistance to diseases like dysentery spread through contaminated water. Your mother ensures you get sunlight in the courtyard to ward off rickets, and she rubs your skin with olive oil to protect against the dry attic climate. Yet, accidents like burns from the hearth or falls while chasing a hoop require quick care, often just oil or prayers. The polis environment tests your survival. Crowded streets and open sewers breed fevers, and festivals like the Panathenea, where you march with a basket of offerings, expose you to crowds and risk the plagues. Legacy looms. Thucydides noted its devastation, and your parents' caution reflects this trauma. Slaves who share your meals and chores face the same risks but lack the same care. Their health secondary to the oikos' needs. Religion remains your family's anchor. You learn to pray at the household altar, offering barley grains to Artemis or Apollo, believing their favor can heal. The city's spiritual pulse sacrifices before battles. Oracles guiding policy shapes your understanding of health as divine will. As you recover from a fever or dodge a street puddle, a question lingers. How will these fragile defenses, herbs, prayers, and hope prepare you for a life where health is never guaranteed? Now, at 9 or 10, you stand at the edge of childhood. In Athens, your health, a constant concern in a city of 250,000, where disease can strike without warning. The courtyard of your home, with its altar to Hestia and scent of baking bread, is your haven. But illness, whether a fever or a fall tests, your family's resilience. The polis, thriving in its 5th century BCE golden age, relies on healthy citizens to sustain its democracy and war efforts. And your survival is a small but vital part of this machine. Your experiences with sickness and recovery, shaped by remedies and fervent rituals, reveal the delicate balance of life in Athens. Your mother's healing practices are now second nature. A stomachache earns a brew of mint or chamomile, while a sprain from racing in the alleys is wrapped tightly and treated with olive oil massages. Serious illnesses, like a lingering fever, prompt a pilgrimage to an Asclepius sanctuary, where you sleep among other supplicants, hoping for a divine dream to guide healing. These sanctuaries, littered with clay votives of afflicted limbs, reflect Athens' blend of faith and desperation. Hippocratic physicians, with their theories of humors, are distant figures. Your family depends on herbal lore and the wisdom of midwives or elders. Diet and hygiene are critical. You eat lentils, figs, and occasional cheese, but lean years mean smaller portions, risking weakness. Water from public fountains, carried by slaves, is boiled or mixed with wine to reduce danger. But dysentery remains a threat, as Thucydides recorded during the plague. Your mother ensures daily baths in a bronze basin, scrubbing your skin with oil to fend off infections. The polis, crowded conditions, narrow streets, open sewers, make vigilance essential. And you learn to sidestep refuse, to avoid illness. Religion is your family's strongest weapon. You lead simple rites, offering barley cakes to Artemis or Apollo. Your prayers more confident as you seek protection. Festivals like the Thergelia, where scapegoats are driven out to purify the city, teach you that health is communal, tied to Athens' spiritual harmony. The Peloponnesian War's tollabsent fathers, strained resources forces your family to rely more on these rituals, as medicines are scarce. Slaves, sharing your risks, receive less care, their suffering a stark reminder of the polis hierarchies. Reflecting on this, you see how health shaped Athens' resilience. Your survival, guarded by herbs, prayers, and careful diets, sustained the oikos, freeing men for politics and war. These quiet battles against illness, fought by children and families, underpinned a civilization that birthed democracy and philosophy. The fragility of your health, met with such determined care, mirrors our modern struggles with medicine and faith. How did these humble efforts to keep children like you alive enable Athens to forge a legacy that still informs our understanding of survival and society? Family dynamics and parental roles. Imagine yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, waking to the soft clatter of clay pots in your family's mud brick home. The courtyard, dusted with morning light, hums with the rhythm of the oikos, your household, where family dynamics shape your world. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy and war dominate public life, your parents' roles are the pillars of your existence, guiding you through a society that prizes citizenship and domestic stability. As a young Athenian, you navigate a web of love, duty, and hierarchy, learning your place in a family that reflects the polis rigid structure. Your father, likely in his late 20s or 30s, is the head of the oikos. A citizen, perhaps, a hoplite farmer or potter, he spends his days tending olive groves or debating in the assembly. His presence is commanding but often fleeting. Civic duties or military training pull him away, leaving the household in your mother's hands. He oversees your early moral education, telling tales of Theseus or Athena by the hearth, his voice firm yet proud. For boys, he's a model of citizenship, teaching you to value the polis. For girls, he's a distant authority, your future tied to his decisions about your marriage. Your mother, often younger perhaps, married at 15, is the heart of the home. Confined to the gynekon, she manages the household, spinning wool, cooking barley porridge, and supervising slaves who fetch water from the Eniakrunos fountain. Her hands, rough from weaving, guide yours in chores or prayers to Hestia at the courtyard altar. She's your primary caregiver, soothing fevers with honey or teaching you to avoid the open sewers that breed disease. Her stories of Penelope or Artemis instill virtues of patience and piety, especially for girls destined for domestic life. The oikos includes other siblings, perhaps a grandparent, and slaves, who make up a third of Athens' population. Older siblings help with tasks or play knucklebones with you, blurring status in childhood, though their futures diverge by gender. Slaves, often war captives, perform heavy labor hauling grain or cleaning yet share your meals. Their presence, a quiet lesson in hierarchy. The Peloponnesian War's shadow fathers called to fight. Resources, scarce titans, family bonds, with everyone pitching in. Religion binds the family. You join your parents in daily libations, offering milk to the gods, learning that survival depends on divine favor. Festivals like the Anthesteria see your family united, you clutching a tiny wine jug, awed by the polis unity. Yet the weight of your parents rolls your father's public duties. Your mother's domestic burden hints at the divided paths ahead. As you watch them navigate their roles, a question stirs. How will their guidance, so rooted in Athens, traditions, shape the person you'll become in this complex polis? Now, at 8 or 9, you're more attuned to the dynamics of your Athenian family, where the oikos is both a haven and a microcosm of the polis strict order. The courtyard, with its altar and scent of baking bread, remains the heart of your world. but you see the weight of your parents' roles more clearly. Athens, thriving in its 5th century BCE golden age, relies on families like yours to sustain its democracy and culture. And your parents' distinct duties, your father's public life, your mother's domestic mastery shape your understanding of duty, gender, and survival in a city of 250,000. Your father's presence is sporadic but powerful. As a citizen, he might spend days in the Knicks debating war taxes or training as a hoplite, his bronze armor gleaming in the andron, the men's quarters. When home, he leads family rites, pouring wine at the altar to Zeus, teaching you the importance of civic piety. For boys, he's a guide to citizenship, sharing stories of Marathon's heroes to inspire your future in the assembly or battlefield. For girls, he's a figure of authority, his decisions about your dowry or betrothal looming closer, often by your early teens. His absence during war, perhaps fighting Sparta, means you see him less. His stern lessons delivered in fleeting moments. Your mother's role is constant, her life bound to the gynekon. She oversees weaving, cooking, and slaves, ensuring the oikos runs smoothly. You help her knead dough or card wool, learning her skills as she recounts myths of Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts. Her care extends to your health, rubbing olive oil on bruises or brewing herbal teas for coughs, a necessity in a city scarred by the 430 BCE plague. Her authority in the home is absolute yet invisible outside, a lesson in the polis gendered limits. For girls, she's a model of resilience. For boys, a reminder of the home they'll one day lead. Siblings and slaves shape your daily life. Older brothers might tease you during games of knucklebones, while sisters teach you weaving tricks. Slaves, often captured in war or born into servitude, share chores but not status. You notice their exclusion from family rites like the apothecary, where boys are presented to phratries. The wars, strains, cares, grain. Absent fathers forces your family to lean on each other, with you taking on more tasks like fetching kindling or watching younger siblings. Religion remains a family anchor. You assist in offerings to Hestia, learning prayers that tie the oikos to the polis spiritual pulse. Festivals like the Panathenea unite your family in processions, but you sense the divide. Boys march toward civic roles, girls toward domestic ones. As you navigate these dynamics, a question lingers. How will your parents' roles, so distinct yet interdependent, prepare you for the divergent paths Athens has set for you? At 10 or 11, you stand on the cusp of adulthood in your Athenian home. The dynamics of the oikos, now a clear map of your future. The courtyard, with its altar to Hestia, and the hum of your mother's loom, is a training ground where your parents' roles have molded you for Athens' gendered society. In a city of 250,000, thriving in its 5th century BCE glory, your families structure your father's civic duties. Your mother's domestic command reflects the polis balance of public power and private stability. These lessons, learned through daily life, prepare you for a world where resilience and duty define survival. Your father's role is now a distant beacon, often absent, serving in the assembly, training as a hoplite, or fighting in the Peloponnesian War. He embodies Athens' civic ideal. When home, he leads rites to Zeus or Apollo, his voice guiding you in prayers that link the oikos to the polis. For boys, he's a mentor, teaching you to recite laws or hold a spear, preparing you for citizenship and military service. For girls, his authority is final. He negotiates your betrothal, perhaps imminent, shaping your future household. His stories of Pericles or Socrates spark pride, but also pressure. As you feel the weight of his expectations, your mother's presence is your constant. She rules the gynekon, weaving cloth for trade or clothing, her hands guiding yours to master the loom or cook lentil stew. Her remedies, honey for coughs, oil for cuts, keep you healthy in a city where disease, like the plague, lingers in memory. She teaches you myths of Demeter, embedding piety and resilience, especially for girls destined to manage homes. Her quiet strength, unseen by the polis, sustains the family, a lesson in the power of the uncelebrated. Siblings and slaves are your daily companions. Brothers prepare for school or phratry rites, their path to the agora clear, while sisters weave beside you, their futures mirroring yours. Slaves, vital yet marginalized, grind grain or haul water. Their exclusion from citizenship stark as you join family rituals. The wars toll scarce resources. Absent men forces you to take on more, perhaps leading prayers or managing chores, your role growing as the oikos adapts. Religion binds you all. You lead libations at the altar, your prayers to Artemis or Hestia more confident. Festivals like the Dionysia see your family united, but the polis divide is clear: boys for public life, girls for the hearth. Reflecting on this, you see how your parents' roles built Athens' strength. Their interplay-civic duty and domestic cares stained a civilization that birthed democracy and art. Your childhood, shaped by their guidance, mirrors our modern balance of public and private lives. How did these ordinary family dynamics, so rooted in duty, enable Athens to forge a legacy that still shapes our understanding of society? The role of slaves in a child's life. Imagine yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, playing in the sunlit courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air filled with the scent of olive oil and baking barley bread. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy thrives and the Parthenon takes shape, slaves making up roughly a third of the population are a constant presence in your life. As a young Athenian, whether boy or girl, you grow up alongside these enslaved men, women, and children who labor in your oikos, your household. They are your caregivers, playmates, and silent teachers, shaping your understanding of Athens. Rigid social hierarchy in a society that celebrates freedom yet depends on servitude. Slaves in your home, often war captives or their descendants, perform the heavy tasks that keep the oikos running. A woman might grind grain on a stone quern, her hands calloused, while a man hauls water from the Eniakrunos fountain or tends the family's small olive grove. As a child, you trail behind them, curious, clutching a clay rattle or knucklebone, unaware of their lack of freedom. Your mother, busy weaving, might entrust you to a slave woman who soothes your scraped knee with olive oil or tells you tales of far-off lands, perhaps her own, before captivity. These moments blur the line between you, though their servitude is clear in their bowed heads during family rites. Play brings you closest to slave children, often born into your household. You toss knucklebones or chase a rag-stuffed ball together. In the courtyard, laughter, mingling despite the invisible divide. These children, your age, share your games but not your future. While you're destined for citizenship or marriage, they face a life of labor. Their presence teaches you hierarchy early. You notice they eat plainer meals, perhaps just barley porridge, while you enjoy figs or fish. The polis bustle debates in the agora. War with Sparta feels distant, but the slaves constant. Work supports it, freeing your parents for civic or domestic duties. Religion touches even these relationships. You see slaves join in offerings to Hestia at the courtyard altar, though their prayers are secondary to your families. Festivals like the Anthesteria include them, but they're excluded from key rites, like the Apaturia for citizen boys. Health, a shared concern, highlights their vulnerability. Your mother treats your fevers with honey, but slaves receive less care. Their illnesses, a threat to the oikos' labor. As you play alongside them, a question stirs. How do these enslaved companions, so integral to your daily life, shape your understanding of the freedom Athens celebrates? At 8 or 9, you're more aware of the slaves who shape your life in your Athenian home, their presence woven into the fabric of the oikos. The courtyard, with its altar and hum of daily tasks, remains your world, but you now see the stark divide between your future and theirs. Athens, in its 5th century BCE golden age, thrives on the labor of its 250,000 residents, a third of whom are enslaved. And these men, women, and children are the unseen backbone of your household. As a child, you rely on them as caregivers, workers, and sometimes friends. Yet their servitude, marked by their exclusion from citizenship, teaches you the polis, complex balance of freedom and oppression. Slaves handle the oikos' grueling tasks. A woman might knead dough for flatbread or clean the latrine, while a man repairs tools or tends goats, their labor freeing your mother to weave and your father to serve in the assembly. You help with small chores, like fetching kindling, but slaves bear the heaviest burdens. A slave woman might braid your hair or bandage a cut from rough play, her gentle hands belying her status. You overhear her speak of Thrace or Scythia, hints of a life before captivity, but her stories stop short, her eyes cautious. These interactions, warm yet fleeting, shape your view of the world beyond Athens. Play with slave children deepens your bond but reveals their limits. You compete in knucklebone games, wagering bits of pottery, or race wooden hoops in the alleys, their laughter matching yours. Yet, you notice they're called away sooner to haul water or scrub floors, while you linger in play or lessons. Your brothers prepare for school, your sisters for marriage, but slave children face only labor, their diet often just barley. Gruel contrasts with your lentils and occasional fish, a subtle reminder of privilege. Archaeological finds of worn toys in slave quarters suggest they cherish play, too, but their time is not their own. Religion underscores their exclusion. You lead offerings to Hestia while slaves stand behind, their prayers secondary. Festivals like the Panathenea include them in crowds, but they're barred from sacred roles, like carrying Athena's peplos, reserved for citizen girls. The Peloponnesian Wars strain absent fathers. Scarce grain increases their workload as you take on more chores. 2. Health risks bind you. A fever might strike anyone, But slaves' illnesses are treated sparingly, their recovery vital to the oikos function. The plague's memory, described by Thucydides, lingers, heightening this urgency. The polis reliance on slaves building ships, working mines mirrors your home's dependence. As you share a game or a story with a slave child, you sense their humanity, but also their chains. A question lingers: how will these daily interactions with the enslaved, so close yet so distant, shape your understanding of Athens' ideals, of freedom and justice? At 10 or 11, you stand on the edge of childhood in your Athenian home. The role of slaves in your life now, a stark lesson in the polis hierarchy. The courtyard, with its altar to Hestia and the clatter of chores, is where you've grown alongside these enslaved men, women, and children, who make up a third of Athens' 250,000 residents. In this 5th century BCE Golden Age, slaves are the silent force behind the oikos and the city's grandeur, from its navy to its temples. As a young Athenian, you see them as caregivers, workers, and fading playmates, their servitude shaping your understanding of privilege in a society that exalts democracy yet thrives on oppression. Slaves now seem both essential and invisible. A woman might teach you to grind grain properly, her expertise ensuring the family's bread, while a man tends the olive press, his labor funding your father's civic duties. Their work hauling water, cleaning, or weaving allows your mother to focus on your upbringing and your father to vote in the Knicks. You rely on a slave woman's care when sick, her herbal poultices soothing fevers, though her own health is rarely prioritized. Their stories of distant lands or lost families fade as you age, replaced by the reality of their endless tasks. Play with slave children, once a daily joy, grows rare. You still toss knucklebones or chase hoops, but their chore scrubbing pots or tending livestock pull them away. Your games, like mock battles for boys or doll dressing for girls, prepare you for citizenship or marriage, while theirs lead only to labor. Archaeological evidence of shared toys in slave quarters hints at their stolen moments of joy. But you see their exclusion from your future boys to the assembly, girls to the hearth. Their meals, often meager gruel, contrast with your figs and fish, underlining your growing privilege. Religion highlights their marginal role. You lead rites to Artemis or Apollo, while slaves assist silently, barred from sacred duties like the Apatoria for boys or the Thesmophoria for women. Festivals like the Dionysia include them in the crowd, but their presence is peripheral, their devotion less valued. The Peloponnesian Wars toll scarce resources. Absent men forces slaves to work harder, their health a concern only for the oikos' survival. A fever in the household, treated with honey or prayers, spares you but might claim them, as Thucydides' plague accounts suggest. Reflecting on this, you see how slaves enabled Athens' glory. Their labor sustained your family, freeing citizens for politics and war. Yet their erasure from the polis ideals reveals its contradictions. Your childhood, shaped by their care and companionship, mirrors our modern struggles with inequality. How did the unseen work of slaves, so integral to your life and Athens' success, allow a civilization to flourish while ignoring the humanity of those who built it? The impact of war on Athenian childhood. Imagine yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, your world shaped by the sunlit courtyard, of your family's mud brick home, where the scent of olive oil mingles with the distant sound of the agora, in a city of some 250,000, thriving under democracy. The Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BCE, against Sparta, casts a long shadow over your childhood. As a young Athenian, whether boy or girl, you feel the war's impact through absent fathers, strained resources, and whispers of battles. Your days, filled with play and chores, are touched by a conflict that tests the resilience of the oikos, your household, and the polis itself, revealing how war shapes even the youngest lives. Your father, likely a hoplite or rower, is often gone, called to serve in battles like Spactaria or two-man Athens triremes. His absence leaves a void. Your mother takes on more, her hands busy weaving extra cloth for trade to compensate for scarce grain. You help with small tasks, fetching water from the Inia Krunos fountain or minding siblings, feeling the weight of a tighter household budget. Meals, once varied with figs and fish, shrink to barley porridge as war disrupts trade routes. The plague of 430 BCE, described by Thucydides as a war-related catastrophe, lingers in memory, making your mother vigilant about fevers, treating them with honey or prayers to Artemis. Play reflects the war's presence. You wield a wooden sword, mimicking hoplites, or play battle with knucklebones, naming them after generals like Pericles. Slave children, sharing your games, bring tales of distant lands, some from war-torn regions, hinting at the conflict's reach. The polis streets, bustling yet tense, carry news of losses or victories, overheard as you trail your mother to the market. Festivals like the Anthosteria, where you sip diluted wine, feel subdued, with fewer resources for lavish processions. Religion offers solace. You join your mother at the courtyard altar, offering barley grains to Athena, protector of Athens, praying for your father's return. The wars toll up to a third of the population lost to plague or battle makes. These rites, urgent slaves, a third of the city, work harder to sustain the oikos, their labor vital as resources dwindle. Your health, fragile in crowded Athens, is guarded by simple remedies like olive oil for cuts, as disease spreads easily in wartime. As you chase a rag-stuffed ball or hear war stories, a question stirs. How will this conflict, reshaping your family and city, mold your childhood and the future Athens expects you to inherit? Now, at 8 or 9, the Peloponnesian War's grip on Athens tightens, its effects seeping deeper into your childhood. The courtyard of your home, with its altar to Hestia and the hum of your mother's loom, remains your sanctuary. But the war's strain fought across Greece from 431 BCE alters daily life. In a city of 250,000, where democracy and culture flourish, you, a young Athenian, feel the war through absent parents, scarce food, and tales of battles like Pylos. These disruptions shape your play, chores, and dreams, teaching you resilience. In a polis, fighting for survival, your father's absences grow longer. As a hoplite or sailor, he's often at sea or camped in distant lands, leaving your mother to manage the oikos alone. She weaves tirelessly, trading cloth for grain. As war blocks imports from allies like Egypt, you take on more chores, hauling, kindling, or grinding. Barley your small hands, helping to stretch meager supplies. meals are leaner, often just bread, and lentils with fish, a rare treat. The plague's shadow, which killed thousands, makes your mother strict about hygiene, washing your cuts with vinegar and avoiding the city's open sewers, where disease, theft, play mirrors the war's reality. Boys stage mock battles with wooden spears, shouting Sparta falls, while girls dress clay dolls as widows, reflecting tales of loss. Slave children, your playmates, share stories of their homelands, some ravaged by war, their words a quiet reminder of Athens' reach. In the alleys, you overhear market gossip about sieges or naval defeats, the polis tension palpable. Festivals like the Panathenea, though grand, feel strained, fewer animals for sacrifice, fewer coins for offerings. These war drains the treasury. Religion becomes a refuge. You lead small rites at the altar, offering wine to Athena for victory, your prayers echoing your mother's fears for your father. Temples, like the Parthenon, still under construction, draw crowds seeking divine favor, and you join processions, awed but anxious. Slaves, vital to the oikos, work harder as resources, shrink, their health secondary, despite shared risks of fever or dysentery. The war's Tulsigers lost farms, raided means, more slave labor. Their silent presence, a lesson in the polis hierarchies, the city's pulse. From the agora's debates to the Nyx's war councils, hums with urgency. You hear of generals like Alcibiades, and the weight of their decisions feels closer. Your childhood, once carefree, now carries the war's burden. Fewer toys, more chores, constant prayers. As you toss knucklebones or help your mother weave, a question lingers. How will this war, reshaping your family's daily life, prepare you for the uncertain future of a polis fighting to maintain its glory? At 10 or 11, you stand on the brink of adulthood in Athens, the Peloponnesian War's shadow darkening your childhood. The courtyard, with its altar and the scent of olive oil, is your shrinking world. As the war raging since 431 BC eats the resilience of your oikos and the polis, 250,000 citizens. As a young Athenian, you feel the conflict's weight through absent parents, scarce resources, and stories of battles like Egospotami. Your play, chores, and rituals reflect a city fighting for survival, shaping you for a future where duty and endurance define Athens' legacy. Your father, if alive, is rarely home, serving as a hoplite or rower in a war that drains Athens' strength. His absence forces your mother to lead the oikos, trading woven cloth for food as war disrupts grain shipments. You shoulder more tending goats, fetching water, or watching siblings, your role vital as the household adapts. Meals are sparse, often just gruel, with malnutrition a risk, as Thucydides noted during the plague years. Your mother guards your health, using olive oil for wounds or herbs for fevers. But the city's crowded streets and sewers spread disease, making vigilance constant. Play now echoes the war's grim reality. Boys wield wooden swords, reenacting naval clashes, while girls weave tiny peploi for dolls, mimicking offerings for Athena. Slave children, once close playmates, are pulled to heavier tasks, cleaning or harvesting as war strains labor. Their stories of lost homes fade, replaced by exhaustion. Yet you share knucklebones when time allows, their servitude clearer as your own path diverges. the polis tension seeps in. You overhear tales of Spartan blockades in the agora, the fear of defeat palpable. Religion is your anchor. You lead rites to Apollo, praying for peace, your voice steady as you mimic your mother's offerings. Festivals, like the Dionysia, though vibrant, are leaner, fewer sacrifices, smaller crowds as war saps resources. Temples, like the Erechtheion, host desperate prayers for victory, and you join processions, your small offering part of Athens' plea. Slaves, a third of the city, sustain the oikos, but are excluded from sacred roles, their health a low priority, despite shared risks of plague or injury. Reflecting on this, you see how war shaped Athens' children, your childhood marked by sparse meals, fervent prayers, and growing duties stained the oikos, enabling the polis to fight on. These struggles, shared by countless families, underpinned a civilization that birthed democracy and art despite conflict. Your resilience, learned through wars, hardships, mirrors our modern challenges with disruption and survival. How did the quiet endurance of children like you, facing scarcity and loss, allow Athens to maintain its cultural and political legacy through one of history's great wars? Education and learning for Athenian boys. Picture yourself as a boy of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, stepping out from the sunlit courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air sharp with the scent of olive oil and dust. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy and the Parthenon define its golden age, your education is a gateway to citizenship, a privilege reserved for freeborn males. Unlike girls, confined to the oikos, you venture beyond the home to learn the skills of rhetoric, music, and athletics that will shape you into an Athenian man. The Peloponnesian War's shadow looms, but your days, filled with lessons and play, are a preparation for the polis public life. Your education begins informally at home. Your father, perhaps a hoplite or merchant, teaches you tales of Achilles, or Solon by the hearth, instilling values of courage and justice. You mimic his gestures during offerings to Zeus at the courtyard altar, learning civic piety. At 7, you're sent to a private school, paid for by your family, as Athens has no public education. A pedagogos, often a trusted slave, escorts you through the bustling streets to a small schoolroom, where a grammatista teacher drills you in reading and writing. You scratch letters on wax tablets, memorizing Homer's Iliad, its verses a foundation for eloquence. Lessons extend beyond letters. A kitharist teaches you to play the lyre, its strings humming as you learn songs praising Athena or Apollo. Music sharpens your mind and binds you to Athens' cultural pulse. Physical training, though informal at this age, begins with games, racing or wrestling with boys in the courtyard. Mimicking the athletic contests of the Panathenaic Games, your diet barley bread, figs, and diluted wine fuels your growth. But war's strain means leaner meals, and your mother guards your health with olive oil for cuts or herbs for fevers. The polis. Expectations are clear. You're training to debate in the assembly or fight as a hoplite. Slaves, a third of the city, handle chores, freeing you for study. But you notice their exclusion from your path. Festivals like the Apatoria, where boys are presented to phratries, hint at your future as a citizen. As you trace letters or pluck the lyre, a question stirs. How will these early lessons blending words, music, and strength, prepare you for the weight of Athenian citizenship in a city at war. Now, at 8 or 9, your education as an Athenian boy deepens, pulling you further. From the courtyard's games into the polis' rigorous demands, Athens, thriving in its 5th century BCE golden age, expects you to master skills for citizenship, eloquence, culture, and strengthen a city of 250,000 shadowed by the Peloponnesian War. Your lessons, held in modest schoolrooms or open spaces, shape you for the assembly and battlefield, setting you apart from girls and slaves whose paths remain bound to the oikos. Each day, you navigate a world of letters, music, and athletics, learning the discipline that underpins Athens' democracy. Your mornings are spent with the grammatists, scratching lines from Hesiod or Sappho onto wax tablets, your fingers smudged with stylus wax. Memorizing poetry hones your memory and speech, vital for debates in the Knicks. You practice writing on astraca, pottery shards, learning to spell names like Pericles, a skill that could one day mark a vote for ostracism. Mistakes earn a stern rap from the teacher's rod, but you persist, knowing eloquence is power. Your pedagogos, a slave who escorts you, carries your tablets and enforces manners, his presence a reminder of the hierarchy you're being groomed to uphold. Music lessons with the kitharists grow complex. You strum the lyre, learning hymns for festivals like the Dionysia, where Athens' love for drama shines. These melodies, echoing in the agora's buzz, tie you to the polis' cultural heart. Physical training ramps up wrestling or running in a palestra. A sandy training ground builds agility for future hoplite drills. You mimic moves seen at the Panathenaic Games, your body toughening despite war's lean diet of lentils and bread, your mother's olive oil for bruises. Thyme tea for coughs keeps you strong in a city scarred by plague. The war's impact is felt. Your father, often absent fighting Sparta, leaves you to soak up his tales of marathon when he's home, fueling your civic pride. Slaves, vital to the oikos, free you for study, but are excluded from your lessons, their labor invisible yet essential. Religion weaves through your education. You memorize prayers to Apollo, recited at school or during rites like the Thurigalia, linking learning to divine favor. The polis pulse debates, war councils, feels closer. Your lessons a bridge to citizenship as you recite Homer or wrestle in the dust. A question lingers. How will this blend of words, music, and strength, so carefully taught, ready you for the public life Athens demands in a time of war and uncertainty? At 10 or 11, you stand on the threshold of Athenian manhood, your education now a deliberate forging of a citizen in a city of 250,000, vibrant yet strained by the Peloponnesian War for 31 to 404 BCE. The courtyard of your home, with its altar to Hestia, is a fading memory as you spend more time in schoolrooms and palastrae, training for the polis demands. Your lessons literacy, music, and athletics are a crucible, battlefield, and cultural life of Athens' golden age. As a boy, you carry the weight of citizenship, a path closed to girls and slaves in a society that thrives on your readiness. Your days with the grammatists are rigorous. You copy passages from Homer's Odyssey on papyrus, your writing sharper, preparing you for rhetoric in the law courts or Knicks. You debate simple questions with classmates, practicing the logic of Socrates' peers, your voice gaining confidence. These skills are vital. Athens' democracy depends on articulate citizens. Your pedagogos, a slave, shadows you, ensuring discipline, his servitude, a stark contrast to your future. The wars toll scarce resources, absent father's means, leaner meals, often just barley gruel, but your mother's remedies, like honey for fevers, keep you fit. Music lessons elevate your role in the polis. You master complex lyre melodies, performing at school for festivals like the Dionysia, where your hymns honor Dionysus. This art, blending discipline and creativity, ties you to Athens' cultural legacy. Physical training intensifies in the palestra. You wrestle, run, or practice javelin throws, mimicking hoplite maneuvers. These exercises, echoing the Panathenaic Games, prepare you for military service, crucial as Sparta's threat looms. Bruises from sparring are soothed with olive oil, but the plague's memory, as Thucydides described, makes health a constant concern. Religion anchors your learning. You lead school prayers to Apollo, memorizing hymns that echo in temples like the Erechtheion, rites like the Apaturia, where you'll soon be presented as a citizen's son, loom large, cementing your place in the polis. Slaves, a third of Athens, support your education by maintaining the oikos, but their exclusion from your path is stark. The wars, strain-rated farms, lost ships pushes you to learn faster, as Athens needs capable men. Reflecting on this, you see how your education built Athens' strength. Your mastery of words, music, and athletics, honed in childhood, fueled a democracy that debated and fought for glory. This training, unique to boys, underpinned a civilization of art and governance. Your path, shaped by war and learning, mirrors our modern pursuit of civic readiness. How did this rigorous education of Athenian boys, so focused on citizenship, enable a polis to create a legacy that still shapes our world? Training and education for Athenian girls. Imagine yourself as a girl of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, your world centered in the sunlit courtyard of your family's mud brick home, where the scent of wool and olive oil fills the air. In a city of some 250,000, thriving in its democratic golden age, your education, unlike that of boys, is rooted in the oikos, preparing you for a life of domesticity and piety. The Peloponnesian War's shadow looms, but as a young Athenian girl, you learn the skills of weaving, household management, and devotion to the gods, shaping you for the roles Athens expects: wife, mother, and guardian of the hearth. Your training begins at home under your mother's watchful eye. In the gynekon, the women's quarters, she teaches you to card wool, your small fingers tangling in the fibers as you learn to spin thread for the loom. These skills, vital for clothing the family or trading cloth, are your first lessons in sustaining the oikos. Your mother tells you tales of Penelope, weaving faithfully, embedding virtues of patience and duty. You practice grinding barley for bread or mixing diluted wine, mimicking her role as household manager, while slaves handle heavier tasks like fetching water from the Enneakrunos fountain. Religion is woven into your education. You sprinkle barley grains at the courtyard altar to Hestia, learning prayers that ensure the family's divine favor. Festivals like the Anthesteria see you crowned with flowers, clutching a tiny clay jug of wine, a child's role in Athens' spiritual life. Your mother prepares you for future rites, like the Erephoria, where girls serve Athena, carrying sacred objects. These rituals, tied to the polis survival, teach you piety, especially crucial in wartime when prayers to Artemis or Apollo seek protection from plague or loss. Play blends with learning. You dress clay dolls in woven scraps, practicing stitches, or play house with slave girls, mirroring your mother's duties. The wars strain scarce grain. Absent fathers means you help more, stirring porridge or tending siblings. Health is fragile. Your mother rubs olive oil on your cuts or brews thyme tea for coughs, wary of the plague that struck in 430 BCE. Unlike boys, destined for the assembly, your path is inward, tied to the home. As you spin wool or pray at the altar, a question stirs. How will these domestic lessons, so different from the boys' public training, prepare you for the life Athens envisions as a woman in a city at war? At 8 or 9, your education as an Athenian girl deepens, anchoring you firmly in the oikos, while the polis of 250,000 hums with democracy and the Peloponnesian War's tension. The courtyard, with its loom and altar to Hestia, is your classroom, where your mother shapes you for a future as wife and mother. Unlike boys, who train for citizenship in schoolrooms, your lessons in weaving, cooking, and piety prepare you for the hearth, reflecting Athens' gendered expectations. In its 5th century BCE golden age, these skills, though domestic, are vital to the polis stability. Your mother's guidance grows more precise. You now work the loom, weaving simple patterns for tunics, your hands steadier as you learn to dye wool with madder or saffron. She teaches you to manage the household's stores, measuring barley, olives, or wine to stretch resources strained by war's blockades. You knead dough for flatbread or tend the hearth, skills that mirror her role and ensure the oikos' survival. Her stories of Demeter, nurturing the earth, reinforce your duty to sustain the family. Even as the war pulls men like your father to battles like Pylos, religion is central to your training. You lead small offerings at the altar, pouring milk for Artemis, your prayers seeking health and harmony. Festivals like the Thesmophoria, a women-only rite for Demeter, loom as your future. And you practice weaving sacred cloths, a role for older girls. The Panathenea sees you join processions, perhaps carrying a basket, learning your place in Athens' spiritual life. The wars, scarce sacrifices, anxious prayers makes these rites urgent, tying your education to the polis plea. For divine favor, play merges with duty. You sew intricate clothes for clay dolls, honing stitches, or organize feasts with slave girls, practicing hospitality. Slaves, a third of the city, handle heavy chores, hauling water, cleaning, freeing you to learn. But their exclusion from sacred roles highlights your privilege. Health remains precarious. Your mother uses vinegar for cuts or chamomile for fevers, mindful of the plague's legacy. The war's strain means leaner meals, lentils, over fish, pushing you to help more. Perhaps watching younger siblings, the polis pulse debates in the agora. War councils feels distant, yet your training supports it by sustaining the oikos. As you weave or pray, you sense your role's quiet power, distinct from the boy's path to the assembly. A question lingers. How will these lessons so rooted in the home, equip you for a life of domestic responsibility in an Athens reshaped by war. At 10 or 11, you stand on the cusp of womanhood in Athens, your education in the oikos, a deliberate preparation for marriage and motherhood. The courtyard, with its altar and the hum of the loom, is your world, where your mother's lessons in weaving, household management, and piety have molded you for the polis expectations. In a city of 250,000, vibrant yet strained by the Peloponnesian War for 31 to 404 BCE, your training as a girl ensures the oikos' stability, a foundation for Athens' democracy and culture. Your path, unlike boys' public education, is inward but vital to the city's survival. You now weave complex patterns on the loom, producing cloth for trade or family use, your skill easing wars, economic strain. Your mother teaches you to budget scarce resources, barley, oil, wine, skills crucial as blockades disrupt supplies. You oversee younger siblings or slaves, learning to manage a household, mirroring her role. Her tales of Athena, goddess of crafts, instill pride in your work, preparing you for a betrothal that may come soon, often by 13. These lessons, rooted in the Gynekon, sustain the oikos, freeing men for the assembly or war. Religion is your anchor. You lead rites to Hestia or Demeter, offering barley cakes, your prayers confident as you seek divine protection. Festivals like the Arafria, where girls honor Athena, are near. You practice weaving sacred pepaloi, a role tying you to the polis spiritual heart. The Dionysius processions see you chant hymns, your voice part of Athens' unity. Though wars, scarcity, fewer offerings, leaner feast stempers the joy. Health is guarded. Your mother treats fevers with herbs or oil, the plague's memory, urging vigilance in crowded Athens. Slaves, a third of the city, support your training by handling grueling tasks, grinding grain, fetching water. But their exclusion from sacred rites, like the Thesmophoria, underscores your status. Play, now rare, involves dressing dolls or practicing hospitality, always tied to your future. The wars, Tolobsant fathers, raided farms forces you to lead more, perhaps managing the hearth when your mother trades in the market. The polis, grandeur, from the Parthenon to war councils, rests on your unseen work. Reflecting on this, you see how your education upheld Athens, your skills weaving, managing, praying sustained the oikos, enabling men to fight and govern. This domestic training, often overlooked, fueled a civilization of art and democracy. Your path, shaped by war and duty, mirrors modern women's roles in supporting society. How did the quiet education of girls like you, so rooted in the hearth, enable Athens to forge a legacy that still informs our understanding of family and community? Play and leisure in an Athenian child's life. Picture yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, darting through the sunlit courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air warm with the scent of olive oil and baked barley bread. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy and the Peloponnesian War shape adult lives, your world is one of play and leisure, fleeting moments of joy amidst chores and learning. As a young Athenian, boy or girl, you chase wooden hoops, toss knucklebones, or mimic festival dances. Your games weaving together freedom and preparation for the polis gendered roles. Play is your escape and education. In the courtyard, you roll a wooden hoop with a stick, racing siblings or slave children, your laughter echoing off mud brick walls. Knucklebones, small sheep bones, or clay imitations are your favorite, tossed in games of chance or skill, teaching dexterity and strategy. Boys mimic hoplite battles, wielding sticks as spears, dreaming of the assembly, while girls dress clay dolls, practicing stitches for future weaving. These games, found in archaeological digs, mirror Athens' culture. Boys for war, girls for the oikos. Leisure often blends with festivals. During the Anthosteria, you join processions, crowned with flowers, clutching a tiny jug of diluted wine. Your first taste, a tangy thrill. You dance to flutes, mimicking adult steps, learning the polis rhythms. The wars, strains scarce, resources, absent fathers limits toys, but you improvise, using pottery shards as ships or rags as dolls. Slaves, a third of the city, join your games, their own children your playmates, though their time is stolen by chores, like fetching water from the Aenea Krunos fountain. Health and play intertwine. Your mother rubs olive oil on bruises from roughhousing, wary of the plague's legacy. From 430 BCE, meals, lentils, figs, or bread fuel your energy. But wars, disruptions, mean leaner portions. Religion touches your leisure. You offer knucklebones at the courtyard altar to Artemis, praying for strength. The polis bustle market deals war toxins in the background. But your courtyard is a haven of play, however brief. As you toss a ball or chase a hoop, a question stirs. How do these moments of play, so full of joy yet shaped by Athens' expectations, prepare you for the roles you'll inherit in a city balancing war and celebration? At 8 or 9, your play as an Athenian child grows richer. Yet the weight of the polis expectations creeps in. The courtyard, with its altar to Hestia and the hum of your mother's loom, remains your playground. But the Peloponnesian Wars strain on Athens, 250,000 residents, shapes your leisure. Your games, knucklebones, mock battles, or doll player, both joy and training, reflecting the gendered paths of a city in its 5th century BCE golden age. As a boy or girl, you navigate a world where play mirrors the polis culture, preparing you for citizenship or the hearth. Your games are more structured now. Boys stage mock battles with wooden swords, reenacting tales of marathon heard from your father. A hoplite, often absent, fighting Sparta. You name knucklebones after generals like Alcibiades, tossing them to win battles, sharpening strategy for future civic debates. Girls craft intricate doll clothes, sewing with scraps, mimicking the weaving you practice under your mother's eye. These toys, found in Athenian digs, blend fun with duty. Boys learn valor, girls domesticity. You race hoops or wrestle in alleys, your agility growing despite wars. Lean diet of barley, gruel, and lentils. Festivals are your grandest leisure. The Panathenea fills streets with processions. You march, perhaps carrying a small basket, mimicking adult offerings to Athena. The Dionysius dramas inspire you to act out scenes with friends, reciting lines overheard at the theater. Slave children, your playmates, join in, but their time is limited, called to haul water or clean. Their stories of distant lands ravaged by war add depth to your games, though their servitude is clearer as you notice their plainer meals and exclusion from sacred rites. Religion shapes your play. You dedicate a favorite knucklebone to Apollo at the altar, praying for skill, linking leisure to divine favor. Health is fragile. Your mother treats scrapes with vinegar, fearing disease. In crowded Athens, scarred by the 430 BCE plague, the war's toll fewer toys, scarcer feasts pushes you to improvise, turning sticks into triremes or pebbles into game pieces. The polis pulsagora debates, war councils seeps into your games, your mock battles echoing real ones as you wrestle or sew doll tunics. A question lingers. How will these games, blending joy with the polis demands, shape your path in an Athens where war and tradition define your future? At 10 or 11, your childhood play in Athens is a fading joy, tempered by the Peloponnesian War's grip on a city of 250,000. The courtyard, with its altar and scent of olive oil, is still your haven. But your games, once carefree, now mirror the polis expectations as you near adulthood. In this 5th century BCE golden age, your leisure as a boy or girl prepares you for distinct roles. Boys for citizenship and war, girls for the oikos. Your play, from knucklebones to festival dances, weaves fun with duty, sustaining a civilization. Under strain, boys' games are now training grounds. You wield wooden spears in mock phalanx battles, copying hoplite drills seen at the palestra. Your movements sharper as you dream of the assembly or battlefield. Knucklebones become strategic contests named for war heroes, honing your mind for civic debates. Girls focus on domestic play, weaving peploi for clay dolls or staging feasts with pottery shards, skills that echo your mother's lessons for managing a household. Archaeological finds worn toys, tiny looms show how play mirrors Athens. Gendered paths, your leisure, a rehearsal for adult roles. Festivals are your grand stage. The Dionysia sees you mimic actors, reciting lines to friends, while the Panathenaea has you join processions, perhaps offering a woven cloth to Athena. These moments, though joyful, are leaner wars. Scarcity means fewer sacrifices or costumes. Slave children, once close playmates, are pulled to heavier tasks, grinding grain, fetching water, their laughter rare as their labor sustains the oikos. Their exclusion from rites like the apaturia for citizen boys or the thesmophoria for women underscores your growing privilege. Religion infuses your leisure. You offer a toy at the altar to Artemis, praying for strength, tying play to divine favor. Health remains a concern. Your mother uses olive oil for bruises or herbs for fevers, wary of disease in war-torn Athens, scarred by plague. The wars, toll-rated farms, absent fathers forces you to play less, taking on chores like tending goats or weaving. The polis tension, from Knicks debates to naval losses, seeps into your games. Your mock battles reflecting real fears. Reflecting on this, you see how play shaped Athens' future. Your games, blending joy and preparation, built resilience, sustaining the oikos and freeing men for war and governance. This leisure, so tied to the polis needs, mirrors modern childhoods, balancing fun and growth. How did these moments of play, so fleeting yet purposeful, enable children like you to uphold a civilization whose cultural legacy still resonates today. Growing up in the shadow of democracy, imagine yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, playing in the courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air thick with the scent of olive oil and dust. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy thrives under leaders like Pericles, you're growing up in a polis that prizes citizen participation. As a young Athenian, whether boy or girl, you sense democracy's pulse through your father's tales of the assembly and the festivals that bind the community. Your childhood, shaped by play and chores, reflects the values of a society where freedom and duty coexist. Even amidst the Peloponnesian War's shadow, your father, a citizen, perhaps a hoplite or artisan, returns from the Knicks, his voice animated with stories of debates over war funds or laws. He tells you of Solon, whose reforms birthed democracy, sparking pride in Athens' system, where citizens vote directly. Boys like you dream of joining the assembly, while girls learn their role in supporting the oikos, the household that sustains. Citizen men, you mimic his gestures at the courtyard altar, offering barley grains to Athena, learning that divine favor underpins the polis governance. Daily life weaves you into democracy's fabric. You trail your mother to the agora, overhearing market talk of ostracism or naval strategies, the hum of a city where every citizen's voice matters. Festivals like the Panathenea bring you to the streets, clutching a tiny basket, awed by processions, honoring Athena, patron of Athens' democratic ideals. The war's strains, cares, grain, absent fathers means leaner meals, often just lentils, and your mother uses olive oil for your cuts, wary of plague's legacy from 430 BCE. Slaves, a third of the city, shape your world. They fetch water from the Krunos fountain, freeing your family for civic or domestic duties. But their exclusion from citizenship teaches you hierarchy early. Play reflects this. Boys stage mock debates with knucklebones, naming them after orators, while girls play house, practicing oikos roles. Religion ties you to the polis. Your prayers at the altar seek Athena's wisdom for Athens' leaders as you chase a wooden hoop or listen to tales of the Knicks. A question stirs. How will growing up in this democratic polis, with its blend of freedom and duty, shape your place in a city at war? At 8 or 9, you feel democracy's weight more keenly in Athens, a city of 250,000, where the assembly's debates echo even in your courtyard games. The Peloponnesian War strains the polis, but its democratic pulse forged by Cleisthenes and Pericles shapes your childhood. As a boy or girl, you're molded by the ideals of a society that exalts citizen participation, though your path diverges. By gender, boys for the Knicks, girls for the oikos, your days blending play, chores, and rituals reflect Athens' balance of freedom and responsibility in its 5th century BCE golden age. Your father, when not fighting Sparta, brings tales from the assembly, describing votes on war tactics or public works like the Parthenon. For boys, these stories fuel dreams of speaking in the Knicks, where citizens shape laws directly. You mimic debates with friends, using pottery shards as astraca for mock votes. Girls learn from their mothers, who manage the oikos, weaving cloth to trade as war disrupts grain supplies. You help grind barley or tend siblings your small hands easing the household's burden, learning the quiet strength that supports Athens' citizenry. The agora's bustle brings democracy closer. You overhear talk of jury trials or alliances, sensing the polis' reliance on every citizen's voice. Festivals like the Dionysia immerse you in Athens' culture. You recite lines from tragedies inspired by the theater's democratic spirit. The wars, scarce resources, fewer sacrifices makes these events leaner. But you join processions, offering barley to Athena for the city's strength. Slaves, a third of Athens, haul water or clean, their labor enabling your family's civic roles. Though their exclusion from the assembly underscores your privilege, religion ties you to democracy's ideals. You lead offerings at the courtyard, altar to Zeus, praying for wise governance, your prayers echoing the polis' need for divine guidance. Health is fragile. Your mother treats fevers with herbs, mindful of the 430 BCE plague, ensuring you're fit to learn or work. Play mirrors the polis. Boys stage mock trials, girls weave doll clothes, each game a step toward your role. The wars. Tension-rated farms, absent men pushes you to take on more. From chores to prayers, as you toss knucklebones or weave, a question lingers. How will this childhood, steeped in democracy's ideals, yet shaped by wars, hardships, prepare you for the roles Athens expects in its vibrant, conflicted polis? At 10 or 11, you stand on the cusp of adulthood in Athens, a city of 250,000 where democracy's ideals pulse through the war-torn streets. The courtyard, with its altar to Hestia and scent of baking bread, is your fading childhood haven. As the Peloponnesian War, 431–404 BCE, tests the polis' resilience. As a boy or girl, you're shaped by a society that celebrates citizen rules. Your education and play reflecting Athens' 5th century BCE commitment to freedom and duty. Your pathboys to citizenship, girls to the oikos carries the weight of a democracy sustained by your family's efforts. For boys, democracy is a tangible goal. Your father, if not fighting, shares tales of the assembly's debates on war or justice, preparing you for the Knicks. You practice rhetoric with friends, arguing over mock laws, your voice sharpening for future votes. School lessons, Homer's verses, lyre melodies, hone your eloquence, vital for Athens' courts. Girls, trained by their mothers, master the oikos, weaving complex tunics or managing scarce grain. Your work easing wars strain your skills. Learned in the Gynekon, ensure the household supports citizen men, a quiet but essential role. The polis' democratic spirit surrounds you. In the agora, you hear of ostracisms or naval plans, feeling Athens' reliance on collective will. Festivals like the Panathenea unite the city. You march, perhaps offering a woven cloth to Athena, your act tying the oikos to the polis. Wars, scarcity, fewer animals for sacrifice stempers these rites, but their democratic fervor endures. Slaves, a third of the city, sustain your family by hauling water or tending fields. Their exclusion from citizenship, a stark lesson in Athens. Limits. Religion binds you to democracy. You lead prayers to Athena at the altar, seeking wisdom for the polis. Your role growing as war pulls men away. Health, guarded by olive oil for wounds or herbs for fevers, reflects the plague's lasting fear. Play, now rare, mirrors your future. Boys debate like orators, girls stage feasts for dolls. The wars toll lost ships, strained resources forces you to take on more. From chores to leading rights, reflecting on this, you see how democracy shaped your childhood. Your play and work, guided by Athens' ideals, sustained the oikos, enabling the polis to govern and fight. This upbringing, distinct by gender, fueled a civilization of art and citizen rule. Your life, echoing modern struggles with civic duty, raises a question. How did growing up in democracy's shadow, with its blend of freedom and sacrifice, enable children like you to uphold Athens' enduring legacy? Religion and rituals. In an Athenian child's life, imagine yourself as a child of 6 or 7 in 5th century BCE Athens, standing in the courtyard of your family's mud brick home, the air rich with the scent of olive oil and burning herbs. In a city of some 250,000, where democracy and the Peloponnesian War shape daily life, religion is the heartbeat of your world. As a young Athenian, boy or girl, you learn to honor gods like Athena and Artemis through offerings and festivals. Your small hands weaving piety into the fabric of the oikos. These rituals, blending awe and duty, guide your childhood in a society where divine favor ensures survival. Your day begins with religion. At the courtyard altar, you sprinkle barley grains for Hestia, goddess of the hearth, mimicking your mother's. Prayers for family harmony. Your parents teach you to revere Athena, Athens' protector, whose statue looms in the Parthenon, still under construction. You offer a clay figurine or knucklebone at a household shrine, believing these acts ward off plague or war's misfortunes. The 430 BCE plague, described by Thucydides, lingers in your family's cautious rites, as disease and conflict threaten the polis. Festivals are your grandest rituals. During the Anthesteria, you join processions, clutching a tiny jug of diluted wine, its taste sharp and sacred. Crowned with flowers, you dance to flutes, feeling the polis unity. Boys prepare for rites like the Apaturia, where citizens' sons are presented, while girls learn of the Erephoria, serving Athena. These moments tie you to Athens' spiritual pulse. Slaves, a third of the city, join some rites but are excluded. From sacred roles, their presence, a quiet lesson in hierarchy, play and chores blend with faith. You offer a favorite toy at the altar, praying for health. As your mother rubs olive oil on your bruises or brews thyme tea for coughs. Wars strain scarce grain. Absent fathers makes rituals urgent, with leaner meals of lentils fueling your small body. The polis bustle agora deals war toxins, but your courtyard is a sacred space. As you pour milk for Artemis, a question stirs. How will these rituals, so vital to Athens' spirit, shape your place in a city balancing faith and survival? At 8 or 9, religion deepens its hold on your Athenian childhood, its rituals weaving through the courtyard's daily hum, where the loom clacks and Hestia's altar glows. Athens, a city of 250,000 in its 5th century BCE Golden Age, relies on divine favor to endure the Peloponnesian War. As a boy or girl, you're entrusted with small offerings and festival roles, learning that piety binds the oikos to the polis. These acts, from prayers to processions, shape you for a life where gods like Zeus and Demeter guard Athens' fate against war and plague. You now lead simple rites at home. At the courtyard altar, you pour wine for Apollo, god of prophecy, praying for your father's safe return from battles like Pylos. Your mother teaches you hymns, her voice steady as she recounts myths of Athena's wisdom. These prayers, offered with barley or figs, seek protection from the plague's shadow, which killed thousands in 430 BCE. You visit neighborhood shrines, leaving clay votives shaped like hands or feet, hoping Asclepius heals minor ailments like fevers, treated with her herbal teas or olive oil. Festivals immerse you in the polis faith. The Panathenea sees you march, perhaps carrying a basket of offerings, awed by the crowd honoring Athena's Peplis. Boys' Eye, the Apoturia, where citizenship is affirmed, while girls prepare for rites like the Thesmophoria, weaving sacred cloths with your mother. Wars, scarcity, fewer animals for sacrifice makes these events leaner, but their spiritual weight grows. Slaves, a third of Athens, assist in rites but are barred from sacred duties. Their labor hauling water, grinding grain, freeing you for worship. Play reflects your piety. You stage sacrifices with clay dolls or knucklebones, mimicking priests, while war's tension seeps in your mock battles. Name gods as protectors. Health remains fragile. Your mother's vigilance, using vinegar for cuts, guards against disease in crowded Athens. The polis pulsates in the Knicks. War councils feels distant, but your rituals echo its pleas for victory. Your diet, often just bread and lentils due to blockades, fuels your growing role in the oikos faith. As you offer a toy to Artemis or join a festival chant, a question lingers. How will these rituals, tying you to Athens' gods, prepare you for a future where faith and duty sustain a polis at war? At 10 or 11, you stand on the edge of adulthood in Athens, your life steeped in religion, as the Peloponnesian War tests the polis of 250,000. The courtyard, with its altar and scent of burning herbs, is your sacred space where rituals to Athena or Apollo shape your role in the oikos and the 5th century BCE city. As a boy or girl, your prayers and festival duties reflect Athens' dependence on divine favor, preparing you for citizenship or the hearth. These acts of faith, blending awe and responsibility, sustain a civilization facing war and plague. You lead household rites with confidence, offering barley cakes to Demeter at the altar, praying for harvests strained by war's raids. Your pet stories of Zeus or Artemis guide your hymns, tying the oikos to the polis fate. You visit sanctuaries like Asclepius, leaving votive limbs for health, a necessity as the 430 BCE plagues. Memory lingers. Your mother treats your fevers with chamomile or oil, her vigilance heightened by crowded Athens' diseases. These rituals, rooted in survival, echo the polis pleas for divine aid against Sparta. Festivals are your deepest tie to the polis. The Dionysia fills you with awe as you chant hymns, perhaps mimicking actors, while the Panathenea has you offer woven cloths, a girl's role, or march as a boy, eyeing citizenship rites like the Apoturia. Wars toll fewer, sacrifices, leaner feasts makes these moments urgent, binding Athens through shared faith. Slaves, a third of the city, support rites by fetching water or tending altars. But their exclusion from sacred roles, like the thesmophoria, marks your privilege. Play and chores merge with religion. Boys stage mock sacrifices. Girls weave tiny peploi for dolls, both echoing temple duties. Wars strain absent fathers. Scarce grain forces you to lead more rites or manage tasks. Your diet of gruel sustaining you. The polis tension, from agora markets to naval losses, infuses your prayers for victory. Your faith, learned through offerings and festivals, mirrors the resilience of Athens' democracy and art. Reflecting on this, you see how religion shaped your childhood. Your rituals sustained the oikos, freeing men for war and governance, while binding the polis to its gods. This piety, distinct by gender, fueled a civilization's endurance. Your life, echoing modern spiritual resilience, raises a question. How did these childhood rituals, so central to Athens' faith, enable children like you to uphold a legacy of culture and survival in a city at war?